Nothing in this video will make your life easier, and yet, you're still here. Maybe you're hoping to learn something, or maybe you just like the sound of my voice. Either way, it's about to begin. You're sitting still, maybe reclined, maybe halfway through a breath. Your eyes shift, your jaw loosens just a bit, and somewhere inside your chest, the suggestion starts, faint, quiet, a stretch of the lungs, a pull behind the eyes, the slow approach of a yawn. It doesn't rush. It arrives like a ripple, a signal you didn't ask for. One word, one thought, one memory of yawning, and already your body is considering it, opening its mouth without permission, preparing for something that feels both simple and strange. You haven't seen anyone yawn. You didn't need to. Sometimes, just reading the word is enough. Something about the idea alone makes your body lean in. It wants to follow. It wants to stretch, to pause, to reset. Yawns aren't about sleep. Not always. You yawn when you're bored, when you're waking up, when you're nervous, before a speech, in elevators, during long pauses. It's one of the most contagious things humans do, and no one fully knows why. Even now, your throat might feel tight, your eyes might blink slower. A small ache at the top of your cheeks, right before the yawn arrives. You're not imagining it. Your body is reading the idea and responding like it's been told to. The reaction is older than language. We share it with dogs, with monkeys, with birds, even fish. The rhythm is different, but the pattern is the same. A long inhale, a pause, a shorter exhale, the body shifting into a longer breath cycle, without asking. Some people try to hold it in, stop it halfway, pinch their lips closed, but the yawn finds a way. It pulls at the muscles behind your jaw, slides into the chest. It's not about air, it's about something deeper. A reset, maybe, a signal, a mirror of sorts, because when someone near you yawns, your brain notices, even before your eyes do. Mirror neurons light up, a copy being made in your head, not of the face, but of the action. You feel it before you know you've seen it. But what's strange is that it happens even when there's no one there. A book, a sentence, a passing mention. That's enough. Your body remembers. It rehearses the motion, and soon the motion becomes real. It's not about tiredness alone, it's about rhythm. The body changing pace, cooling the brain, shifting from alert to ease. Your heart slows slightly. Your breath deepens. Your posture softens. One small act resets the entire system, at least for a moment. Even animals catch yawns from humans. Dogs do it, apes too. Not from sound, from sight, from presence. It's a kind of connection, an ancient social signal that says I feel what you feel. Still, you don't control it. Not really. It comes when it wants to, when you're still too long, or thinking too hard, or reading too slowly. Sometimes it comes just from hearing the word repeated. Yawn, yawn, yawn. There's a rhythm in it, a low wave of behavior that lives beneath thought, a whisper to your nervous system. Slow down, pause, stretch, reset, and you do. Even when you don't mean to. Even now someone else is yawning. Maybe not next to you, maybe across the world, but their breath is doing the same thing, the same inhale. The same stretch, the same brief surrender to something they didn't decide. The yawn doesn't need much, just time, just space, just a moment of stillness and suggestion. It arrives, it opens, and then it's gone. And maybe yours is already on its way, or maybe it passed a moment ago. Either way, the body remembers. It doesn't rush to explain. It just opens like a breath that keeps going, and then fades, without a sound. The hallway stretches ahead, plain, tiled, quiet. Your steps are steady, relaxed. But then behind glass, you catch someone's gaze, not long, not pointed, just a glance, a flicker of awareness, and without deciding to, your pace begins to change. It's not a sprint, not even urgent, but something shifts. Your legs move a little quicker. Your arms swing with more rhythm. The steps become sharper, as if your body knows it's being seen and wants to show it knows how to move. You weren't walking slow before, but now there's a tempo, an invisible beat pulsing just below your thoughts. Your body begins to walk like it's being timed, even if no one is keeping score, even if no one really cares. The strange thing is, you don't feel nervous, not exactly. You're not acting. You're still you, but you've become aware of your shape, your direction, the path your feet take. You've stepped into a version of yourself meant for observation. This happens everywhere, on sidewalks, through office corridors, past windows at the gym, walking past cameras, past strangers, past mirrors. The body senses it, even before the mind does. And suddenly, the speed increases. It's not panic, not fear. It's performance. A low, soft one. An instinct to move with a kind of purpose, not enough to sweat, just enough to be seen as someone going asterisk, somewhere, asterisk. And when the gaze ends, when you pass the window or they look away, your pace settles again. Not immediately. It fades like an echo, gradual, until your body feels private again, unmeasured. Still, the memory of being seen lingers, just a little. Your posture might stay taller, your stride a little longer, like your body remembers how to walk with an audience and doesn't want to forget too quickly. Even animals do it. Crows walk differently when watched. Dogs change their steps. Horses move with more caution. There's something ancient in the eyes of others, something that reminds you that you exist beyond yourself. The gaze doesn't need to be real. Even the idea of being seen is enough. A camera lens, a reflection, a painted eye. The feeling slips in, unnoticed, and your body adjusts, almost politely. It's not about showing off. Not always. It's more about assurance, control, a silent signal. I am alert. I am aware. I am safe. I am moving the way a person is supposed to move, and yet the moment never lasts. It's fleeting. A second here, a few steps there, then it's gone. The walk returns to normal, but for a little while, your body became something else, something more performative, more aligned, more precise. People do it in hallways, in parking lots, in grocery store aisles, at crosswalks, alone but watched, not chased, just seen. And in that seeing, the rhythm changes, not out of fear, just familiarity, because we've done it forever. For approval, for safety, for presence. Something in the brain clicks when eyes land on you. A hidden switch, turning walk into display. Even if no one's watching closely, even now, someone somewhere is walking just a little faster. Not because they're late, not because they're worried, but because someone looked up from their phone. Someone glanced across the sidewalk. Someone noticed, and that noticing shaped a step, changed a pace, became a moment of movement, meant not just to get somewhere, but to look like you belong on the way. Then the gaze passes, the steps return, the moment dissolves, but the body still remembers, for a while, until it forgets again, and the world returns to being walked without witness. The doors slide shut with a soft thud. The floor lights blink once, then settle. You're inside a metal box, surrounded by mirrors and buttons and stillness. And then music, light, weightless, without beginning or end. It fills the air like mist, like it was already there. It doesn't demand anything. There are no lyrics to follow, no beat to move to, just slow, predictable tones, the kind that float rather than land. It's not meant to entertain you, it's meant to keep you from noticing how strange this space really is, because elevators are unnatural. You're standing in a sealed room, rising through the air. You can't see outside. You don't know the machine's parts. You don't control the motion. For a few seconds or minutes, you surrender entirely, and your brain knows it. Decades ago, designers realized this, that people don't like being in moving boxes. Some felt trapped, others held their breath. There were reports of panic, of dizziness, of subtle unease, even when nothing went wrong. So someone added music, but not just any music. it had to feel like furniture. Something soft, something circular, something so gentle that it smoothed over the edges of anxiety without saying a word. So elevator music was born, not for pleasure, but for peace. It was carefully tuned. The tempo never too fast, the volume just enough to notice, never enough to interrupt. Instruments were light, flutes, soft strings, pianos barely touched, each note faded into the next. A constant lull that made everything feel normal. Even when nothing is happening, the music tells your body everything is fine. No sudden shifts, no silence to fill with your own heartbeat. Just calm, sliding upward, or downward, or nowhere at all. It wasn't played live, it came from speakers hidden in the ceiling, tucked into vents, looped through reel-to-reel systems, then tapes, then digital files. The same songs, repeated for years. You've heard them, even if you can't remember how they went. They never ended. Not really. There were no climaxes, no drama, just a stream of melody that could stop at any second and no one would notice. It existed not to be heard, but to be felt, and it worked. People fidgeted less. They stared at the numbers instead of the walls. They didn't think about how high they were or how far they were from the ground. The music turned a machine into a room, something familiar, something safe. Even now some elevators still use it, though many don't. Silence has returned to most modern lifts, replaced by beeps and voices and touchscreen tones. But in older buildings, in parking garages, in quiet hotels, you'll still hear it, faint, like it never left. There's a reason it feels so timeless. Elevator music was never meant to belong to a decade. It was meant to erase time, to make waiting feel like floating, to make motion feel like rest, and it still does. You may not notice it right away, but your breathing changes, your posture eases, your eyes drift. That's what it was made for. Not to distract, but to dissolve. A small soundtrack for a suspended moment, and sometimes, even outside of elevators, you'll hear it again. In lobbies, on hold, in long hallways that feel too still. It follows you gently, like the sound of a memory that was never clear to begin with. Someone somewhere is still choosing those songs, adjusting the levels, looping them in just the right order. They may never be noticed, but they were never trying to be. Their goal was simpler: help you forget you were ever nervous at all. Just a few notes, just a small room, just you and the motion and the music between. A calm whisper of control, a delicate pause held in midair, until the doors open again and the sound disappears, as if it was only ever there to hold the space between floors. And then, it lets go. The message lights up on a screen, a short sentence, a simple reply, but something about it lands harder than it should. All the letters are capitalized. No lowercase, no curve, just blocks, upright, sharp, like someone is standing too close, speaking too loud. You weren't expecting to feel it, but you do. A weight in the words, a stiffness, a tone that wasn't there before, as if the sentence came with volume, even though it didn't make a sound, as if your eyes were being shouted at. Typing in all caps doesn't change the meaning. The letters are the same, the spelling doesn't shift, but the shape changes, the rhythm disappears. Every word looks like a stop sign. There's no softness, no space to breathe. Normally, text has flow. Uppercase letters begin things. Lowercase ones carry them forward. There's a rise and fall to it, a kind of texture. But in all caps, everything is the same height. Every word is a wall. That uniformity feels unnatural. It removes the voice, or replaces it with something colder, stricter. There's no whisper in a message like that. Just force, just presence. It demands your attention even when it doesn't mean to. Still, people use it. Sometimes for urgency, sometimes for excitement, sometimes because the key was stuck, or the phone was old. But the feeling stays the same. The screen gets louder. The sentence gets tighter. The room feels different, even if it's empty. Part of it is habit. We're used to balance, a mix of tall and small letters. When it disappears, the mind reacts. It sees the shift, even before the words register. It prepares for conflict, or warning, or command. It's the same reason road signs are bold. The same reason headlines use capital letters to be read quickly. To hold space, to resist being skimmed. It's useful, but it's not gentle. Even now, a message arrives somewhere in all caps. Maybe by accident, maybe not. And someone on the other end pauses, just a breath, just a second of wondering. Are they upset? Are they trying to tell me something else? The keyboard didn't change, just the casing. The mood followed. It always does. Because the brain doesn't just read. It hears, it imagines, it assigns tone. And with all caps, the tone turns rigid. Designers have studied it. Fonts, in all caps, are harder to scan. The eye gets tired faster. The mind works harder to find where one word ends and the next begins. The result is tension. Small, invisible, but real. Lowercase letters have shape. They dip below the line. They curve. They play. But capitals stay straight. They rise and stop, rise and stop. A line of pillars instead of a sentence. A chant instead of a thought. There's no punctuation to help. No comma feels soft when the letters are shouting. No period feels final when the whole thing feels like a push. It turns a question into a command, a hello into a warning. Even friendly words can feel cold like that. Good morning. Have fun. See you there. Each one becomes something else, not unkind, just unfamiliar. The intention feels distant, lost behind uniform letters. It's not about etiquette, not exactly. It's about how shape holds meaning, how the form of a word changes how it lands, how tone sneaks in, even when we didn't mean to send it. Still, some people use it on purpose, for effect, for drama, for clarity. And it works, but it also leaves a trace, a slight ringing in the mind, a word that echoes a little longer than it should. And then, just like that, the next message arrives. Lowercase again, balanced, relaxed, and the screen feels calm once more. Like someone sat down after standing too tall for too long. Like a breath that never had to be shouted. You turn the corner of an aisle. The air shifts slightly, cooler near the frozen foods, warmer near the bakery. Your basket swings from your wrist, and just for a second, your eyes catch a reflection. A round mirror, tilted above the shelf. Watching, bending the space back toward you. You don't stop, but your pace changes. A flicker of self-awareness, brief as a blink. You saw yourself, not fully, just enough. A face, a coat, a shape in motion. The mirror isn't meant for you, but it still sees you, and part of you sees back. These mirrors are everywhere, hung in corners, above doorways, near end caps and checkout lanes. At first they seem like safety tools, for staff to watch for shoplifting, for corners too tight, for carts that turn without looking. But that's not the only reason. Some mirrors aren't just about vision, they're about behavior. They're about you. More specifically, the version of you that shows up when you know you're being seen. When you're reminded, however faintly, that someone else might be watching. Not in a fearful way, not in a loud way, just a subtle nudge, a sense of presence. Studies have shown that even a brief glimpse of yourself in a mirror can change how you act, how you move, how you choose. In stores, mirrors influence pace, they influence posture, but more curiously, they influence what we buy and how much we spend. Not through pressure, not through ads, through reflection, through self-awareness tucked into the edge of the ceiling. When people see themselves, even passively, they become slightly more conscious, more deliberate. You don't realize it's happening, but your choices tighten. Your decisions become clearer. Sometimes that means fewer impulse grabs. Sometimes, strangely, it means more asterisk. Because for some, seeing themselves, even briefly, adds a kind of performance to the moment. You straighten. You select with intention. You want the basket to look a certain way. You want the checkout belt to reflect something neat, something complete. Still, it's not about vanity, it's about rhythm. Mirrors slow you down just enough to notice your own hand, your own habits, your own reflection, however curved or distorted. You feel watched, not by others, but by yourself. Even now, in stores across the world, shoppers are moving through aisles while small angled mirrors tilt above them. They don't notice. Not really, but the effect is there. Hidden behind the flicker of fluorescent lights and quiet music, and the effect doesn't stop at mirrors. Even images of eyes, photos, stickers, posters have shown to change shopper behavior. The sense of being seen, even if it's not real, still shifts something inside, just enough to guide a choice. Still, mirrors are unique because they reflect you asterisk. Not a rule, not a camera, not a logo, just your face, your shape, your presence, suspended in silvered glass for one passing second, then gone. They aren't everywhere on purpose. Stores place them carefully, near higher-priced goods, near displays that feel curated. They want you to slow down, to see the items, to see yourself, to stay in that aisle just a little longer. And it works, not dramatically, just gradually. Over time, people spend more, or they spend better. Cleaner carts, fewer returns, more time deciding. Not because the store told them what to buy, but because the mirror gave them back their own gaze. Even children respond. They giggle when they see themselves. Some hide, some wave, but they all pause, they all notice. And in that pause, something changes. Time bends, the errand becomes something more conscious, more real. Then, like everything else in the store, the mirror is left behind. Another aisle, another reflection. You forget it was there, but your hand moves differently now. Your choices feel steadier, not louder, just slightly more seen. And as you walk to the register, you may glance up one last time. The mirror catches your face again, only for a moment. It doesn't hold on. It doesn't follow. It simply lets go, like it was never watching, just reminding. You step into a room, a purpose in mind, and the door closes softly behind you. For a moment you stand still, taking in the space. There's something strange about this quiet pause. You came for something important. But as you stand there, it begins to slip from your mind, like sand through your fingers. The walls are blank, the furniture untouched. Your eyes wander over the details, a small clutter of things in the room, none of them quite what you came for. There's a faint hum in the air, the soft murmur of a distant thought, but it's already fading. It's almost as if your mind has reset. Still, it doesn't take long before you remember. No, wait, you were asterisk here, asterisk for something. What was it? Your eyes dart from corner to corner, looking for some clue, but it's like a door in your mind has quietly shut, leaving you standing there, a passenger in your own body, trying to trace a forgotten path. A strange feeling creeps in as you stand there. It's familiar, almost too familiar. You've been here before. This is not the first time you've walked into a room with a clear purpose, only to be left standing, wondering what it was. It happens again and again, as if there's something inherently built into the process. Without much thought, your gaze flits across the room again, hoping for something to trigger the memory. Perhaps the angle of the light in the corner will bring it back, or the arrangement of a few books on the shelf, carefully placed, might pull the thought back into focus, but nothing. Nothing yet. The more you search, the more elusive the thought becomes. It's like grasping at the edge of a dream, slipping away as you try to hold on. The purpose you came here with remains stubbornly absent, almost as if the room itself has swallowed it whole. And so you wait. The answer will come, you think. It always does. It's not just you. This happens to everyone. We all forget why we entered a room. It's a strange yet common part of life. And even now, as you stand there, there's something oddly comforting in the fact that this small lapse is shared by so many. It's one of those quiet mysteries that doesn't need to be explained, just acknowledged. Even now, as your feet shift, there's an itch of curiosity. Why does this happen? It's more than just a lapse in memory. The mind, after all, is always working, always processing. You were here for something, but what was it? The more you search for the answer, the further it drifts, just beyond the reach of your thoughts. Theories float through your mind like bubbles. Maybe it's the transition from one space to another, a change in environment that scrambles your mental signals. Or maybe it's the overwhelming sensory input of the room itself, too many little details, each one pulling at a thread, distracting you from the single strand you were following. Some say it's a quirk of the brain, the way it moves from one task to another. You enter the room, your brain shifts gears, and the purpose fades as new stimuli take over. It's almost as if your brain in that moment decides that the room's environment is more important than your original thought. You are here after all, and the room needs to be processed. Still, there's a part of you that clings to the original thought. Perhaps, just by focusing hard enough, the memory will snap back into place. But the more you strain, the further it seems to recede, like a shadow shifting as the sun moves across the sky. It's as if your mind is playing a quiet game of hide and seek, and it's winning. You start to move, walking toward the window, perhaps for something to distract you, to give your mind the break it needs. But even as you do, something shifts. A faint, quiet whisper of the original thought flutters back into your consciousness. It's just a glimpse, barely a suggestion, but it's there. It waits, without much thought. Your body shifts again. You turn toward the door. The need to leave is growing, and yet you are still unsure. Why did you come in the first place? Maybe you'll never fully remember, but the thought is still there, hovering. It lingers like the last note of a song, soft and persistent. Maybe it's just the rhythm of life. Things enter and exit, fade and return. The act of walking into a room, a pause in time, is like a brief reset, a small shift in the continuous loop of your day, and in that reset, memories flicker. Some stay, some don't. The ones that slip away may never return, and that's fine. You're about to leave when, for the briefest of moments, it all comes back. The reason you came in, the purpose, now clear. It's simple, unremarkable, and yet it feels significant. You almost smile at the quiet absurdity of it. You came in for something, but it was never really the thing that mattered. Maybe you'll think about it again tomorrow, or maybe you'll walk into another room and forget once more. It's funny how that works, how we remember and forget so effortlessly. It's part of the flow of things, the constant ebb and pull of thought, a rhythm we move to, whether we realize it or not. The door swings open, and for a brief moment, the space behind you feels quieter, almost still. The room seems to breathe a soft exhale, as if it too is content in its own way. Whatever you came here for doesn't need to be remembered. It simply waits, quiet, unchanged. There's something about the shape of letters that seems almost intentional. The curve of an S, the crisp edge of an L. If you stop for just a moment, you might notice how those letters feel different from one another, each one carrying a subtle weight, almost like it has its own quiet purpose. The human eye moves across text in a way we rarely think about. The letters align, one after another, forming words, sentences, and thoughts. But hidden within that movement is something unexpected, a slow pull toward certain shapes, certain fonts. As though our brains are reading more than just letters, without much thought, we tend to trust certain fonts more than others. Times New Roman, perhaps, with its familiar, slightly formal appearance. It feels solid, established, secure. It's the kind of font that reminds us of a textbook, of something important, something reliable. Yet it's only a series of lines and curves. Even now you might wonder if this feeling you have, when reading certain fonts, is the same for others. Do we all trust the same shapes? Are we all drawn to certain letters in the same way? Or is it something deeper, something hidden in how we interpret the visual world? The answers might surprise you. In fact, when you see a font that's clean, maybe Helvetica or Arial, with its sharp, clear lines, you might feel a sense of clarity, a promise of transparency. But what about a font like Comic Sans? It's playful, casual, even whimsical. You might smile at its carefree nature, but trust, that's something different. Still, when you look at fonts used in business or government, you start to see patterns. Serifs, the tiny flicks at the end of letters, have been shown to create a sense of tradition. Something grounded, a feeling of authority, as if the letters themselves are telling you, I've been here for a long time. And yet there are fonts without serifs, clean, modern, they might look sleek, efficient, but do they feel as trustworthy? It's as if the lack of those small details leaves something unspoken, as though the font is trying too hard to be precise, too perfect, perhaps too cold. Something in us reacts to that. Even now, as you think about your favorite fonts, you may realize they carry a subtle weight. It's not just about readability, it's the way they make you feel. A script font might evoke elegance, but it could also seem unapproachable. A bold, thick font might suggest strength, but also maybe aggression. Without much thought, our brain categorizes fonts as safe or not, friendly or distant. We don't often question it, as if the decision is made in some quiet corner of our minds. And when we see a font on a website or an ad, we don't always realize how it's influencing what we think about it. Still, in a world so busy with information, those quiet details make all the difference. The subtle flick of a letter, the angle of a curve, they give us clues, they send messages without us realizing. These fonts aren't just about words, they're about feelings, evoking a trust that we may not even know we're offering. You might have noticed it yourself when you look at a carefully designed brand logo. Some fonts just seem to have more weight, more presence. There's a feeling of authority, like they've been designed with purpose. Others, more playful, give off a light-hearted, friendly tone. The power of design, in all its simplicity, it's in the rhythm of the letters, the patterns they create. As you move across a page, the words become more than just information. They're a visual experience, something your brain is absorbing before you even understand the meaning. And in that space, trust can be given or lost in a single glance. Even now, as you glance at the words in front of you, you might find your eye drawn to one font over another. You may not even know why. It could be something as simple as the rounded edges or the weight of the strokes. They carry with them a subtle promise, an invitation to trust. Still, these preferences aren't just personal quirks. Research has shown that people are more likely to trust a message when it's delivered in a font they deem serious or professional. And yet it's not about the actual content, it's about the way the font guides our perception, shaping our feelings before we even process the words. In the end, fonts are more than just tools for communication. They are silent characters in the story of how we read, how we connect. They shape the way we perceive trust, the way we form judgments in the blink of an eye. An entire narrative unfolding in the lines and curves of each letter. You might not always realize how deeply fonts shape your perception, but they do. It's subtle, quiet, almost imperceptible. The letters that surround you are always at work, gently influencing how you feel about what you see. And as you read, they carry with them an unspoken promise, one that you may not even notice. Still, tomorrow as you glance at a page or a sign, you may find yourself looking a little more closely at the font. It's the small details, the quiet sway of letters on a page, that carry weight. And you might never fully understand the influence they have, but they are always there, shaping you quietly. The moment is familiar. You stand on the curb, your foot tapping lightly against the pavement. Ahead of you, the signal light stares back, silent, indifferent. You glance to your side and see the button, just waiting for a press. Without thinking, your finger moves, pressing it firmly, even though you know it won't work. Still, it feels like something has been set into motion. There's a quiet reassurance in the act, a strange, almost automatic belief that the simple press of a button changes something, even if you're aware deep down that it's not connected to anything at all. Even now, you can recall the quiet hum of a street corner, where the button lies as an illusion of control. It's as though for just a moment, you've made the system work for you. It's not about the button itself, but the act of pressing. It's the rhythm that feels right. Without much thought, your hand reaches for the button again. Not because it's necessary, but because it's part of the process. Maybe, just maybe, the next time you press it, something will change. A signal, a moment, something real will follow. And yet, it never does. The button remains as it always has, just a button. It's unconnected, forgotten by the system that lines the streets, and yet there's comfort in that. The belief that you can control the moment, however fleeting, the idea that the button, whether real or not, somehow alters the experience. Still, why does it feel so important? Why, even in the face of knowing that the button has no power, do we still seek to press it? Maybe it's because in the chaos of a busy street, it's one small act of agency, one small connection to something larger. It's in the repetition, the consistency of the behavior. Every time you press, the world around you feels more predictable. You're not at the mercy of chance or random timing. There's a sense that the world is following some unspoken rule, a rule you helped create. Even though you know the button does nothing, the moment of pressing feels familiar, like a habit or a pattern woven into the fabric of your daily routines. It's easy to dismiss it, but there's a comfort in the rhythm of it all. There's an odd safety in the gesture. The small, simple press becomes a bridge between you and the street, a connection to the world that feels structured, even if it's an illusion. The moment the button is pressed, the street feels quieter, more contained, like you've made a pact with time. Maybe you've never noticed, but the act of pressing often happens without looking. There's no need to check the button. It's not about whether it works. The action itself is the point. The press happens because it's been ingrained. A small part of the walk, the rhythm of the street, that has always existed. Still, in a world that constantly pushes us to act, to respond, to take control, these small moments of invisible influence, like pressing the crosswalk button, offer something simple, a quiet acknowledgement of our ability to change the world around us, even when the world remains unchanged. Without much thought, your finger presses again. The light changes, or maybe it doesn't. Either way, there's a sense of calm that fills the space between each press. The moment doesn't require answers. It simply is. The button has done its job, whether it was ever meant to. Even now, as the light changes or stalls, the moment hangs in the air, silent, still. The street is no longer chaotic. The rhythm continues, even if it's only a soft echo of an action that may or may not have made a difference. It doesn't ask for attention, but it never really leaves. The button remains, a small quiet anchor in a world that sometimes feels too fast, too unpredictable. It waits, as if it knows all it takes is a moment of belief, a press of the finger, to make the world feel just a little bit safer. Maybe you'll notice it tomorrow, or maybe you never will. But the next time you stand at the curb, hand hovering over the button, just press it. Even if it doesn't work, even if it never will, you'll find that something about it still feels right, and perhaps that's enough. The soft rustle of paper, the faint click of a pen, and the gentle hum of a fluorescent light overhead. A stack of folders sits on a desk, neatly organized, each one in its place. There's something calming in the order, in the way the colors seem to invite your eyes to move slowly from one to the next. Even now, when you open a drawer, you might see them, those brightly colored folders, their edges neatly aligned. Some might be red, others blue or green, each hue marking something different, something important. It's as though the colors carry weight, a subtle reminder of what needs attention, a signal to your mind. Still, it isn't just the contents of these folders that matter. It's the way the colors seem to shift the pace, the way they make things seem simpler. When you see that familiar shade of yellow, your hand instinctively reaches for it. You know exactly what it holds, and something in the color helps you feel prepared. It's almost as though the color itself speeds up the process. When you work with a system like this, your mind naturally moves faster. You might not even notice it. The red folder goes to the right side of your desk, the blue one to the left. Each folder slides into place, seamlessly, effortlessly. Without much thought, your brain begins to categorize, making distinctions where there were none before. The green folder represents one kind of project, while the orange one holds something completely different. The separation isn't just in the contents, but in the colors themselves. They become markers of intent, reminders that help you keep moving forward. In fact, it's something that even the smallest shift in color can influence. When you switch from one folder to the next, the color is like a small jolt, a signal that the task at hand is changing. It's not just a new file, it's a new world to navigate, framed by that vivid hue. You might think of how certain tasks feel easier when you have the right folder in hand. The feeling is familiar, almost like a quiet confirmation. This is the one. A simple shift in hue can make everything feel just a little bit smoother. The work becomes less overwhelming when it's neatly divided by color. In the quiet rhythm of the office, these colors almost seem to guide you. There's no need to ask, no need to search. Each folder waits, each one is ready, each one is different, and you move through them, calm, methodical, as if following an invisible path. The color-coded system seems to make the journey effortless. The colors don't just separate the work, they give it shape. The blue folder holds the project with the most immediate deadline, while the red one is for something you can return to later. The green one is a reminder of a task that's ongoing, always there, always waiting. In this system, everything has its place. Even now, when you reach for a folder, you can almost feel the difference. A red folder feels urgent, a green one feels methodical. A blue folder is calm, like an old friend who quietly waits for attention. Each folder becomes more than just paper, it becomes an extension of the work itself. Still, there's something even more interesting about this. As you pull each folder from its resting place, something subtle happens. Your pace quickens. Without noticing, your hand moves more confidently. You reach for the folder, flip it open, and dive into the task. There's a rhythm to it, a kind of silent speed. Perhaps it's not just the color, but the way it changes the environment. When your space is organized like this, with colors that match the work at hand, it feels like the work itself has been made easier. The folders don't just hold papers, they hold a promise that things are under control. And maybe that's the secret. The work isn't necessarily faster because the folders are colorful, but because your mind feels organized. The simple act of assigning meaning to color helps reduce the mental clutter, making it easier to focus on the task. It's not just the folders, it's the calm that they bring. In offices all over the world, color-coded folders work their quiet magic. They shift the atmosphere without being noticed, guiding hands and minds, subtly speeding the work. They sit in drawers, waiting. They wait with purpose, without fuss. The work continues, steady, with the rhythm of colors softly pushing you forward. There's something oddly comforting in this simplicity. The colors don't demand your attention. They don't call out. They just sit, quietly, ready. And you, moving through the motions, don't need to think much about it. The work gets done, as if the folders themselves are quietly organizing your thoughts. And when you're done, the folders are left behind. The space remains, orderly, without much effort. The colors are there, gently holding the structure together, waiting for the next time. It's a system, a rhythm, a small detail in the quiet moments of work. The folders fade into the background, but the effect lingers. You may never notice it, but there it is. A little jolt of energy, a quiet burst of focus, hidden in the colors that sit beside you, ready, waiting. And perhaps just maybe, the next time you open that drawer, the colors will work their soft magic again. The sound of rain, soft against the window, brings an unexpected stillness. The pattern of it, the rhythm, how it falls in scattered drops, sometimes heavy, sometimes light. But the rhythm remains the same, the idea that certain patterns just feel right, like the way an odd number might seem more. The trustworthy, it's subtle, like a thought that lingers just beyond your reach. When you glance at a list of things, an odd number of items feels different, more balanced somehow, more complete. Even if you don't consciously notice it, there's something there. a sense of trust, as though it's more thought through. Still, you might not immediately recognize it. Lists with odd numbers stand out: 3 choices, 5 options, 7 steps. There's a balance in these numbers that doesn't feel too perfect, yet doesn't seem off. It's a quiet middle ground between certainty and uncertainty, as if it's been purposefully arranged that way. Even now, think about it. When you see a list with 5 items, do you feel a quiet sense of resolution? Like there's just enough to hold your attention, but not so much that it feels overwhelming. There's a feeling of order, but not too much. It's easy to trust. Without much thought, you can see the same pattern in everyday decisions. Choosing between 3 or 5 options, your mind feels more aligned with it. You don't need to count, you just sense that it's right. Odd numbers bring something more fluid to the table. They feel more real somehow. Odd numbers don't seem to press you. It's not the perfect symmetry of an even set, where balance feels contrived. A set of 5 choices feels more human, more honest, almost like it's come from an imperfect source. It feels approachable. Even the structure of it seems to give room for change. Perhaps it's the slight asymmetry. 3 choices, 5 items, 7 tasks. It's familiar, but not too neat. Your mind doesn't feel trapped by the predictability of the even number. Instead, there's a freedom in oddness, a gentle disarray that feels more natural, like things have a way of falling into place. Take a moment, close your eyes. Even for a second, how often do you look at a list of 5 or 7 things and feel that soft pull towards it? The list feels more complete than if it had 4 or 6. The odd number doesn't demand perfection. It gives you just enough, and that's enough to trust. When something is presented with an odd number, it doesn't overwhelm you with its choices, but doesn't leave you hanging either. There's a quiet comfort in the middle ground. It's almost like odd numbers are the Goldilocks of choices, not too few, not too many. They just fit in a way that feels right. Even the smallest object can reflect this. A row of 5 apples, 5 chairs, 5 steps up a staircase. Odd numbers stand out, but not in an obvious way. They feel real. They feel grounded. You don't need to analyze them. You simply accept them as though they are exactly as they should be. Still, it's easy to miss how deeply ingrained this is. In a list of 5 things, you can find yourself trusting the choices more. A set of 6, maybe, but it doesn't have that quiet sense of finality, that completeness. It's as though the odd number brings a little more certainty with it. Without much thought, this small pattern shifts how we see things. We might not always know why, but odd numbers leave us with something that feels more genuine. It's not about being perfect or having too much. It's about balance, the kind that doesn't feel too neatly ordered or too haphazard. It simply works. You could argue that odd numbers have been ingrained in us too. From early childhood, we're taught to look for balance in life, even if it's not in the usual way. Oddness, though, isn't something to be fixed. It's something to be embraced. And in that acceptance, there's trust. Maybe that's why odd-numbered lists seem more authentic. They don't promise certainty, but they feel approachable. You trust them because they come from somewhere less rigid. They feel like a quiet truth, an echo of the imperfect world we live in, and there's a calm reassurance in that. The next time you glance at a list of 5 things or 7 options, take a moment to notice the quiet comfort it gives. It's almost like an unspoken understanding between you and the world. Nothing about it is rushed or forced, it just fits. In the end, the odd numbers don't need to explain themselves. They don't need to justify their existence. They just are, and that's enough. Their simplicity, their quiet symmetry, creates a sense of ease, almost without us realizing. We trust them, not because we're told to, but because they simply work. And maybe that's how all things should be. Not perfect, not symmetrical, just enough. Enough to be noticed, enough to be understood, and enough to keep us coming back. Odd numbers, in their quiet simplicity, don't need to shout for attention. They just sit there waiting to be seen. It's late in the evening, the kind of hour when a soft light lingers over the edge of a shelf, casting quiet shadows over neatly labeled price tags. The numbers on those tags seem to shimmer, ever so slightly, drawing your eye. You notice them, but you don't quite know why. The price reads $19.99. Something about it feels softer, doesn't it? Not $20, but $19.99. That little difference, 1 cent, seems so insignificant, yet when you look again, it seems to carry weight. It's a number that feels more inviting, more approachable, almost as if it promises something just out of reach, but within grasp. Still, there's no magic behind it. There's no real reason why it should make a difference. $20 and $19.99 are so similar that you might expect to feel the same about both, but the subtle shift, the difference of 1 single cent, causes something in you to pause, just for a moment. The trick has worked, in ways you might not fully understand. It's a quiet game, played by numbers that tell stories without words. Those last 2 digits have power, pulling on a psychological thread we're all aware of, but never quite acknowledge. It's not about logic or mathematics. It's about how the mind perceives things, how it breaks down numbers into something more, something simpler. Even now, in your mind, $19.99 feels less than $20. It's almost as if $20 is a barrier, too clean, too whole. The $19.99 feels like a better deal, a better opportunity. It suggests a bargain, a small escape from the expected. You know it's subtle. You know it doesn't truly change the cost, but it feels different. Without much thought, we've all encountered it. The price is often the same, yet the feeling it evokes is entirely different. This small detail, the final digits, is a trick we hardly ever question. It's so common, so woven into everyday life, that we accept it without a second glance. But the effect lingers. The presence of a .99 price tag is everywhere. It's the unspoken rule that governs the way things are presented to us. It doesn't demand attention. It just nudges us into a frame of mind where what we're seeing feels like less money, less of an investment. And yet it's only a tiny fraction of a difference. There's a certain comfort in it. The .99 signals the possibility of a deal, a promise. It's not the full price, not quite, and for a moment the mind believes it's stepping into something familiar, something easy, something just a little bit more affordable. It's simple, but it works. And that's the trick. The trick, as it turns out, lies in the way we perceive numbers. We're wired to see a change from $20 to $19.99 as something significant. A price that ends in .99 seems like an escape from the clean, whole number, like stepping into a world of less. A world where bargains await, where small victories feel possible. Even in the most mundane of moments, this trick is at play. When you stand in line, holding something in your hand, glancing at the price tag, your eyes are already scanning for that final digit. You know it's coming. You know it'll be there. And yet each time it pulls you in, almost like it's something new, something different. The key is simple. It's the feeling of a number approaching, but never quite arriving. $19.99 isn't $20. It's not the same. It can't be. And your mind, without even trying, accepts that difference. It accepts the narrative that it's a better price, a better deal. It's just a penny, but it's enough to shift perception. The effect isn't always conscious. In fact, most of the time, we don't even notice it happening. But when we look back, we see that the sale price ending in .99 has made an impact. A small one, yes, but enough for the mind to latch onto, enough to create the illusion of a better offer. You might remember, the next time you're in a store, the tiny bit of discomfort that comes when you see something marked at a whole number, like $20. It feels a little too direct, a little too honest, without the .99. It's not a price we want to touch. The psychological trick is complete. It simply waits. That small difference, hiding in plain sight. Just a tiny adjustment, shifting perception, weaving through the noise of everyday transactions. And tomorrow, when you glance at a price tag again, it will probably still be there, quiet, waiting. There's a sound in the shower, not the rushing water, but something else. The hum of your voice bouncing off the tiles. You don't notice it at first, but it's there. A little more confident, a little more in tune. Something shifts when you sing, even if you don't mean to. Still, it's a feeling that comes only in that small space. Outside, your voice might falter, crack, but here, inside this tiny, steamy room, it feels different. The sound of your singing bounces off the walls in a way that makes it fuller, richer, like the room itself is holding you up, supporting you. Without much thought, you might find yourself singing a little louder, a little freer. No one's around to judge. The water is warm, the air thick with steam, and you're alone but not really. Your voice floats, held up by the space. The acoustics seem to smooth out the rough edges. You sound good. It's the walls, the hard surfaces of the shower, shaping the sound. Water droplets create a soft backdrop, turning every note into something clearer, more defined. The sound travels. Every pitch, every tone bounces right back to you, amplifying, blending in ways that make you feel a little more like a professional, even if you're just humming. Even now, as you think about it, you can almost hear it. The echo of your own voice filling up the room. It's not magic, it's just physics. The reflective surfaces, the way sound waves bounce in such close quarters, turning them into something bigger, something fuller, something worth hearing. Your voice doesn't have to fight against any outside noise here. No cars honking, no chatter in the next room, just you and the sound of your own singing, magnified. It's like the shower creates a perfect pocket of space for your voice to breathe. There's no rush, no pressure, it's just you. It's the shape of the shower too. The rounded corners, the way the tiles curve around you. The water drops, coming down in a soft, steady rhythm, giving the sound space to grow, to fill in the gaps. It's all a little quiet orchestra, where everything works together, whether you mean it to or not. Still, it's a strange thing, how much better we can sound in here. Maybe it's the echo, maybe it's the lack of distraction. You're alone, and it's as if the room itself encourages your voice to come out. The acoustics turn what might be a shaky note into something that sounds right. You've probably sung in a car too, or in an empty room. But there's something about the shower, the hot water, the enclosed space, the way everything seems to disappear, except for the music you make. No one is listening, and somehow that makes it easier to get lost in the sound. Without much thought, you might find yourself holding notes longer, stretching out the lyrics with a bit more emotion than usual. It's as if the sound of your own voice reflected back at you gives you permission to go just a little further, to belt out that high note, or to sink into the softness of the low ones. Even now you might find yourself remembering that one time when you sang a little louder than usual, and it sounded better. It's strange how a simple moment of freedom, of singing in the shower, can make you feel a little more confident, a little more alive. There's something about the space that makes it easy to get lost. Still, outside the shower, the world can feel more critical. There's the possibility of being heard, the fear of judgment, but in the shower, there's nothing but the water, the warmth, and the sound of your own voice. It's a small escape, a space where you can forget about the world and just sing. And maybe when you're done, you'll walk out with a little more confidence. Maybe the next time you sing, it won't be as timid. Maybe you'll remember how the sound felt, how the notes flowed in that small warm room, and maybe that memory will carry with you for just a little while longer. Maybe tomorrow, when you step into the shower again, you'll catch that same feeling. The water will start to run, the room will start to warm, and you'll feel the sound fill the space around you, just like it did before. And you'll sing, without thinking too much about it, because it just feels right. And when the water turns off, the echo of your own voice will still linger in the space, fading away, until the next time you let it out. It waits there, always ready. There's something particular about the scent of freshly sharpened pencils. It doesn't just linger in the air, it twists and sways, subtle, almost unnoticed, until suddenly it's there. You inhale, and something shifts, a faint taste of something old, a memory long buried, resurfacing with quiet force. Still, it's not the pencil itself, nor the wood that carries the essence. It's the shavings, delicate curls of cedar, crisp and fine, scattered around the edge of a desk. You've seen them many times, collected in quiet heaps. Yet it's in their scent, their presence, that something else waits. The sharpness of the wood mixes with the dust of time. It's almost sweet, with a hint of something dry, and in that blend, something stirs, a sensation of being far away, back in a space you can't quite name. But it feels familiar, warm, like home, or the ghost of home. Even now, if you close your eyes, you can almost hear the quiet scrape of the sharpener, a slow, steady hum as the blade meets the pencil's wood, a routine that existed in the background of so many moments. An action performed without thought, yet somehow it left a trace, a mark, a memory. The scent, though, isn't just about schoolrooms or childhood moments. It drifts beyond the edges of time, where old desks and worn notebooks no longer live. For a moment, you're no longer where you are. Instead, you're pulled into something quieter, something that feels almost forgotten, but isn't. The smell has quietly unlocked the door. Without much thought, you might assume that nostalgia is simply a series of images and faces, but it's more than that. It's the small things, the unnoticed moments, the slight sensations that thread through your life. A pencil's scent, the soft, rhythmic sharpening. These things have layers. They form a quiet bridge to the past. Perhaps it wasn't a grand moment, the time when that scent first etched itself into your memory. Perhaps it was just a Tuesday. The mundane rhythm of a classroom, the slight tilt of a head as a sharpened pencil is offered, a fleeting, inconsequential gesture, but it stuck. And now, every time you smell it, you remember. It's funny how that happens, how a single, almost negligible detail can draw the past close enough to touch. The scent of a pencil, simple in its origin, becomes a vessel for 1,000 fleeting moments. And yet, once it's in the air, once it catches your attention, you can almost hear the echo of those moments. You might feel it most on quiet afternoons, the soft dust of memories drifting back into view. That smell comes, and you realize that something is different. Not something you can see, but something you can feel. The weight of the past, the pull of something that lives within you, quietly, in the corners of your mind. Somewhere in the layers of that smell, there's a small silent room, a room full of pencils and sharpeners, a desk where hands once worked over paper, tracing letters or solving equations. The flicker of a light overhead, the rustle of paper, and in the air, the sharpness of pencil shavings, never noticed until now. Even now that smell lingers, faintly with a presence that seems to stand still. It waits for you to return, for you to listen. It doesn't ask for your attention, but somehow it gets it. A small, simple thing, yet one that holds so many threads of something larger, something deeper. Without much thought, you've already left the room, moved into a place where pencils and desks are not so important. Yet the scent remains, quietly hanging in the air, a reminder of something you can't quite place. A memory that isn't so much about a time, but about a feeling, a sensation that will linger until you let it fade. The thing is, you might never truly understand why the smell of pencil shavings feels so familiar, or why it makes you pause, just for a moment, and wonder. It's not that it's tied to any one thing, it's that it's tied to everything. It's that it's tied to everything. 1,000 memories, 1,000 places, all stitched together in a single simple scent. Maybe tomorrow, when you're sitting quietly, working on something of your own, you'll catch the scent again. Or maybe you never will. Either way, it will always be there, just out of sight. A memory, quiet but insistent, always waiting to return when the moment feels right. There's something about the quiet, the soft hum of the fluorescent lights above, the slight rustle of paper as someone shifts in a chair, adjusting themselves just slightly. The muted colors on the walls, the soft beige or pale gray that blend in with everything else, never demanding attention. It's almost as though the walls don't want to be seen. The colors chosen so carefully that they're designed to disappear, to calm rather than stimulate. No bright reds or vibrant greens here, just tones that fade into the background, almost like they know they're not meant to be the center of attention. Still, there's a rhythm to it all. The waiting, the unspoken patience that sits in the air, thick but unhurried. These are the spaces where time seems to stretch longer, thinner, and the colors reflect that, don't they? Soft and neutral, giving no contrast, no interruption to the waiting that fills the room. Even now, the faintest hint of a color, a soft cream, a quiet gray, seems to encourage stillness. It's a design choice, sure, but also something more subtle. The muted hues keep everything low-key, gentle, as though encouraging a moment of pause before the next step. No sudden movements here, nothing jarring. Without much thought, we accept it. The waiting room. Those spaces where you drift in and out of awareness, unsure if time is moving, or if it's simply waiting with you. But what would happen if the colors were different? If the walls screamed for your attention, would the waiting be as easy, as smooth, as it seems now? Perhaps it's because those muted tones are so familiar. They don't ask for our gaze, they don't demand. Instead, they do something more quiet. They soften the edges, blur the space between here and there. They make it easier to fade into the moment, to get lost in the rhythm of time moving slowly. You might have noticed how often waiting rooms are similar. The shades on the walls rarely deviate from one another. Beige, off-white, pale blue. The colors themselves almost seem like they're meant to mimic the flow of a calm, steady tide, ever moving, but in the most gentle of ways. Nothing abrupt, nothing sudden. And yet, in the stillness of the room, you begin to notice the details. The small things. A faint crack in the paint. The way the light shifts across the wall, making the color look ever so slightly different from one angle to the next. The same color, but not quite. You've seen this before, but now it's more alive. The chairs, too, are muted. Nothing flashy or too comfortable. Just enough to make you feel like you should stay, but not too much to make you feel at ease. They hold you in place, but don't pull you in. It's as though the room is reminding you, you're here for a reason, but you're not here forever. And still the waiting continues. The color of the room becomes a part of the space, a companion to the moment, to the pause that stretches on, without end. Even when you're distracted, even when you lose track of time, the soft shade of the walls remains, patiently guiding your mind back to where it started. Maybe that's why muted colors work. They don't fight for your attention. They don't pull your gaze. They simply are, existing alongside the waiting. It's as if they're saying, don't worry, we'll be here when you're ready. And so you wait, just a little longer. In some ways it feels like they know, these walls, these colors. They know how we move through life, how we need moments to pause, to reflect. Maybe that's why they don't scream for attention. It's the quiet spaces that matter. It's the soft, subtle moments where time feels endless but still somehow okay. The next time you sit in one, you might wonder how long it's been, how much longer the soft beige has been holding you in its calm. But the answer isn't important. What matters is that you're here, in this room, in this moment. The colors simply remind you to wait and let it be. Without much thought, you begin to blend in. You become part of the waiting, part of the moment that stretches onward, tethered only by the quiet of the room. The soft walls stand still, never pushing, never rushing, as time moves ever so slowly around you. It doesn't demand, doesn't shout, it waits, quiet, unchanged. And somewhere in that, you begin to realize that perhaps that's all you need. It's late in the evening, and the steady rhythm of a distant car engine hums through the window, just loud enough to be felt, but not enough to demand attention. A familiar buzz, a low, constant sound. It fills the space, filling the gaps, making the quiet seem fuller. The refrigerator hums quietly in the corner of the room, its motor cycling through another cold breath. The gentle creak of a floorboard far away, the soft rattle of a window caught in a draft. All these sounds weave together, creating a fabric of noise that is almost comforting. A gentle buzz that settles into the background. Still, you may not even notice it. The ticking clock on the wall, the faint murmur of distant voices, they're not meant to be heard, not really. They exist, quietly, formlessly, without asking for attention. But they're there, a presence. A background that anchors the silence without ever feeling intrusive. Even now, the room is filled with this strange, unnoticed music. The gentle rustling of a curtain swaying in the wind, the soft breath of the air conditioner. These sounds aren't new, they're not loud, but they are familiar, and somehow, that familiarity is all that's needed. A soft, constant reassurance. Without much thought, you realize that it's not the silence you're used to. It's this hum, this rhythmic noise. It feels like a blanket, woven together by the quiet pulse of your surroundings. A presence that fills the air, both reassuring and soothing. It doesn't demand to be heard, but it does hold the space. You might have felt it before, that quiet comfort of a room that hums around you. The way it becomes part of your routine, the way you expect it, even when it's barely noticeable. The way it makes the world feel settled, like everything is in its place, and there is no need for anything more. It's as though this noise, simple and repetitive, has become part of the rhythm of your life, a pattern. The same creak, the same hum. It's not the sounds themselves that matter, it's the repetition. It's the way they hold the air in place, filling the silence with something that is both empty and full at the same time. Still, you don't need to think about it to feel it. It's just there, the same buzz, the same whirring, the same distant hum of the outside world. It's almost as if it's a sign, a signal that life is continuing, outside your room, outside your space, a quiet reminder that time moves on. Even now, you find yourself drawn to these sounds, to the way they seem to hold you without trying. There's no urgency in them, no rush, they just are. And in that simple existence, they offer a quiet sense of comfort, a stillness that's not quite still, but smooth, almost like being cradled by time itself. Without much thought, you've already adjusted to their presence. They no longer feel intrusive. They blend into the fabric of your thoughts, the soft whir of a fan, the distant murmur of a television, the ticking of a clock. All of it becomes part of your mental landscape, a familiar piece of the puzzle. You might not even realize how much you've come to rely on it. These sounds don't have to be loud or prominent. They're not the focus of the room, yet they hold the space. They fill it, like a background rhythm in a song you didn't know was playing. The world continues without making noise, yet it's always there. Even in the quietest moments, the world hums, gently, like a whisper that you almost don't hear. But when it's gone, when the hum fades, it feels different, almost unnatural. The absence is felt more deeply than the presence ever was. It's a strange, gentle discomfort in the silence that creeps in when it's missing. Still, you don't mind it. The hum, the buzz, the creaks, they don't demand your attention, but they offer something subtle, a feeling of being connected, even when you're alone. These little noises, tiny and constant, seem to remind you that you're not truly isolated. You are simply here. The more you listen, the more it becomes a part of the background. The comfort of something steady, something familiar, something constant in a world that often shifts. It's like a thread, a quiet, invisible connection between moments, weaving through time, without ever drawing too much attention to itself. Without much thought, you begin to notice how it creates space, not physical space, but mental space. The background noise frees up the foreground for everything else, your thoughts, your quiet moments, your reflection. The noise is there, but it's not in your way, it simply is. Maybe tomorrow, when the hum is still there, you'll notice it again, or maybe not. It doesn't ask for attention. It simply waits. You'll return to the rhythm of it without realizing how often you've come to depend on its soft, steady presence. It doesn't intrude. It just surrounds. And yet perhaps the most peculiar thing about it is that despite how constant it feels, it's never quite the same. The hum shifts with the seasons, the time of day, the temperature changes, and with it, the sound of the air. The hum adapts without needing anything in return. Still, it remains quietly there, like a familiar friend. You might never stop to think about it, but it doesn't matter. The hum, the buzz, the faint ticking of time passing, they hold the space for you. Without them, there's just too much silence, and somehow, that silence would be more unsettling than the hum ever was. And so, without a word, it lingers, quiet, unseen, unheard, almost, but always present, like the quiet presence of time, just outside the door. There's a certain stillness to a room without windows. The air seems to settle differently, as though it's been caught in a place that doesn't quite belong to the outside world. The light inside is constant, unchanging, and so too is the rhythm of time. Or is it? In such spaces, there's no natural marker for the passage of hours, no gentle shift of daylight that fades into the soft colors of dusk. The usual cues we rely on seem to fade into the background. Time doesn't speak the same way when you can't see the sky. Still, it's not always immediately obvious. At first, you might think things are normal. You might be focused on a task, unaware of how much time has passed. The minutes stretch and bend, but they don't make their presence known. They simply arrive, softly, when you're not looking. Without much thought, your mind begins to search for something external, something to ground you. You glance at the clock, it's still there, but it doesn't feel quite right. It seems as if time has slowed, or maybe it's simply taken on a different texture altogether. Unmoored, and yet even now there's a strange comfort in it. A room without windows offers no distractions, no sudden change in light to remind you of the world outside. Time becomes something that exists only in the space between thoughts. The seconds pass with little interruption. Like a soft hum, the brain, however, isn't so passive. It wants to track time, needs to measure it, so it begins to create its own rhythm. Without sunlight or moonlight, without the passage of day into night, your internal clock starts shifting. It's not accurate, but it is persistent. Time becomes something you feel. In this artificial realm, you begin to forget the usual markers. At some point, you stop checking the clock. It feels unnecessary. You begin to trust the flow of things, the way your body keeps itself steady. The minutes don't feel like minutes anymore, and you become part of a different kind of rhythm. Even now, there's a subtle unease to it. How much time has passed since you entered? You check the clock again. Has it really been that long? How did it happen? Your mind, trying to make sense of what it has felt, has created a narrative for you. A time that's real, but only in your head. The experience is different for everyone. Some people adjust quickly, slipping into the rhythm of the room, letting time float. Others become acutely aware of its passing. The stillness, the lack of change, becomes an itch. They begin to notice every small movement, the sound of their breathing, the flicker of their thoughts. Without windows, without those markers, time becomes a fluid thing. Not a rigid structure, but something that expands and contracts with the ebb and flow of the mind. One moment, it might feel like seconds have passed, and the next, hours. Your body, now unsure, tries to anchor itself. Without much thought, the mind tries to fill in the blanks. It's a quiet, almost unnoticed process. A moment of distraction, a glance toward the clock, a shift in posture. The mind is still measuring, but it's measuring a thing that can no longer be trusted, a time that no longer feels quite real. Yet this is how it works in windowless spaces. You can't escape the dissonance. The mind is set free in a sense, but it's also bound by the walls that surround it. There's no outside to measure time by, no natural rhythm to follow. The world outside simply doesn't exist in the same way anymore. And still the mind finds a way to adjust. It can't help but fall back on itself. You begin to trust your body, to trust the movements that come naturally. The stillness becomes a backdrop, and time begins to feel like something you can hold on to, if only for a moment. It simply passes. Maybe you won't notice it at first, or maybe you will. Time shifts, unnoticed, slipping in and out of the moments that make up the day. And in the absence of light, of windows, of nature's cues, you may find that you no longer rely on those old markers. They've simply become a part of the silence. Tomorrow, when you step outside again, the light will be different. The sky, too, will shift in its colors. And you might find that time feels a little different, too, but perhaps not in the way you expect. It lingers in the memory of the room, in the stillness that you left behind. You've likely felt it before. The spacious room, the open layout, the airy feeling of movement, of unbroken space. Yet the moment you stop moving, it shifts, it settles into something else. The edges of the room seem to press in, and suddenly you realize that everything feels still. It's not obvious at first. The open floor plan, after all, promises freedom, doesn't it? A wide view, a clear path from one end to the other. There's something comforting about the absence of walls. But as your gaze moves from the couch to the kitchen, something changes. You become aware of the silence, the quiet hum. Even now, you might not have noticed it yet. How every room flows into the next. No boundaries, no corners to hide behind. The kitchen is just there. The living room is just there. And no matter where you stand, someone else could be standing right there too, watching. Perhaps it's a fleeting feeling, but it lingers. Without much thought, your posture shifts. You glance over your shoulder. The room is too open, too exposed. The furniture, set against the walls, invites you to stay, to settle. But then something in the middle of the floor catches your eye. A motion, a shift. Was it the curtain or something else? The space seems endless, and yet you feel less alone. The absence of walls isn't just about freedom, it's about visibility. When there's nowhere to turn, nowhere to retreat, the eyes of the room become sharper. The presence of others becomes more real, even when no one is physically there. At first, it's just a subtle sensation, a quiet unease that grows as you walk. Every step seems to echo, not just in the room but inside your own mind. You realize that the very openness you thought was comforting is now creating an invisible pressure. You're more exposed, and yet the world around you feels strangely contained. And now you're thinking about it more than you were before. The wide expanse of space seems to shrink as you cross the room. You feel the weight of each step. Each movement feels like a choice, a decision to be watched or not to be. The walls may be gone, but something else remains. The gaze, even the simplest of actions, now feels like it has an audience. A drink from the fridge, a glance toward the window. Even the way you sit down feels somehow performative. In these open spaces, there is always the possibility of being seen. Even when you're alone, you aren't. Without much thought, you find yourself moving differently. A soft sigh escapes you as you realize you've unconsciously adjusted. The openness once promised freedom, now it's shaped a quiet sense of being observed. You begin to think about the people who might walk through the door, the ones who would notice you from every angle. The open floor plan, once a symbol of modernity, of light and spaciousness, becomes something else. It becomes a stage, and in the back of your mind, you know this isn't a coincidence. The layout encourages an awareness of presence. The fluidity between spaces fosters a constant state of subtle surveillance. It's in the design, in the air itself. Maybe it doesn't make sense. Maybe the walls are still just walls, and the floor is still just floor, but still you feel it. The absence of separation invites the feeling of being watched. There's no escape from the gaze. It's as if the room itself is keeping track of you. A quiet witness to every move. Even as you step back to the edge, you still feel it, don't you? The room that feels bigger somehow feels more confining. There is no space left to simply disappear, to fade into the background. The more space there is, the more you feel seen, and the more you are aware of that gaze. It stays with you. You might think it's a small thing, a passing thought, but the next time you step into a wide, open room, something might shift. You'll notice the way your body adjusts, how your eyes dart around to every open corner. you'll recognize that it's not just the absence of walls that makes a room feel open, but the unspoken presence that fills it. The openness seems to push the boundaries of privacy, and yet there are no walls to hide behind. It's just you in the room, and somehow that's enough to make you feel watched. Even when the room is empty, the emptiness fills with the sense of being seen. There's a familiar hum that fills the room, the soft glow of a screen, casting just enough light to make the shadows feel like an old friend. The sound, the theme song, its first few notes are like a comfort, a lullaby almost. You press play. The same episode. Again, still, you settle deeper into the couch. The comfort of the known wraps around you, the familiar characters, their routines, the unfolding events, every scene, like a memory, almost worn in, soft from frequent visits. This show, this story, is a world you can return to without fear of the unknown. Even now, you're not watching to find out what happens next. You already know. There's something soothing in the predictability. No surprises, no sharp turns, no unexpected moments of stress. The anxiety that so often creeps in is held at bay by the repetition, the rhythmic dance of comfort, of familiarity. Without much thought, your mind relaxes. The characters, their lines, the setting, all become part of a steady flowing rhythm. It's not that the show is new, but that it's always there, always the same. And in that steadiness, there's a quiet certainty, a rhythm that calms the pulse. The world outside feels distant now. In its place, this small universe, these familiar faces, offer a gentle escape. They're not real, but they're predictable, safe, and perhaps that's why, without even realizing it, you've started rewatching it. Again, maybe for the 10th time, maybe for the 100th. Repetition isn't a burden. It's a refuge. Every line, every gesture, every beat in the soundtrack, a small piece of stability in a world that often feels anything but. The more you watch, the more it becomes part of the fabric of your thoughts. You know it, and you know what's coming. You can rest in that knowledge. Even though the outside world is constantly changing, in this world time feels slower. There are no deadlines, no urgent needs, no overwhelming surprises, just soft, predictable moments, one after another. The familiarity soothes something in you, like a quiet hand brushing away the weight of the day. Still, the anxiety remains distant. It has no place here, in this world you've returned to so often. It's not gone, but it doesn't seem to matter as much. The show doesn't solve your problems, but it creates a small space, a gap, where the noise of life can't quite reach. Without much thought, you realize this isn't just entertainment, it's something more. It's a break, a retreat. When the world feels too large, too unpredictable, this show shrinks it down to something manageable. A few minutes of quiet, a few moments of peace, and then it starts again. The rhythm, the comfort, in the background, the world continues, but here, in front of you, there's just the soft flicker of the screen, the sound of dialogue you know too well. It's like a lullaby you've played over and over, and each time it's a little more soothing, like the world doesn't exist in this space. Maybe it's the lack of novelty that's so relaxing. There's nothing to prepare for, no hidden twists, no unforeseen stress. It's a loop, a rhythm, a dance, and in that dance, you can relax, let go, breathe a little deeper. Even now you find yourself drifting back into that familiar place. No need to remember the plot, no need to think, just let it unfold again. It's always been there, waiting, always the same. It's like stepping into a room you've been in 1,000 times, but it always feels like coming home. The next episode begins. It's as though you've always been here, never left. The anxiety, the pressing thoughts of the outside world seem quieter now. In this moment, you are held by the known, by the soft, steady pace of repetition, and it's enough to let the weight of the day slip away. The world fades again, the characters speak, the scenes shift, and you listen. There's nothing new, but there's still something comforting, something about returning again and again. Maybe you don't need to know the next plot twist, maybe you need the pause, the simple, quiet rhythm of safety. It doesn't ask for attention, but it never really leaves. There's a certain sound you hear when you step into a coffee shop. It's a mix of clinking mugs, low murmurs, and the hum of machines whirring in the background. Some might find it distracting, but for others, it's exactly what's needed, a quiet pulse that helps them settle into work. The chatter is not loud. It doesn't demand attention. In fact, it's often a blur, just outside your immediate awareness. The barista's voice is a soft melody, ordering and preparing. The clink of ceramic cups might pass unnoticed, but for some, it's the signal their brain needs to focus. Still, the sound of the coffee shop is always there, constant but not overbearing. It's not the content of the conversation that matters. It's the rhythm, the cadence of a busy space that somehow remains comforting. The kind of background noise that fills a space without stealing the air. For some, this soft background noise works like a blanket draped over their thoughts. It's not the silence of an empty room, but rather a gentle hum of activity. It's this low ambient buzz that guides them into their work, as if the world around them simply fades into the periphery. Even now, when you sit down in one of these shops, you might notice your thoughts slow, your focus deepen. You're not listening to the specific conversations around you, you're merely aware of their presence. It's as if the world's hum has its own purpose to help you concentrate without interruption. Without much thought, the sounds of the coffee shop become part of your environment. The coffee machines steam, the door opens and closes, a phone rings, the chatter of nearby conversations is nothing but a wave you let pass by. It's a rhythm that locks you in, pulling you away from distractions. There's something about the combination of sound and movement in these spaces. The busy bustle of a coffee shop feels alive, but not intrusive. The noise becomes predictable, routine. It's a steady pulse that fills the space with a sense of quiet urgency, but it's not an urgency that demands your attention. Maybe it's the repetition. The machines hum in steady intervals. The voices fall into patterns. The predictable sounds of life moving around you help to create a space that is both energetic and calm. It's a paradox of sorts, a place that is bustling but quiet in its movement. Still, for those who work well within this atmosphere, it's more than just a feeling. There's science behind it, the theory that ambient sounds help block out distractions without overwhelming the mind. White noise, the sort you hear in a coffee shop, masks the sharper, more intrusive sounds of the world. For some, the soft layering of sounds creates a kind of mental space where ideas flow more easily. A rhythm is established in the background, and the brain syncs with it, naturally tuning out unnecessary stimuli. This allows them to settle into their tasks, as if the environment is setting a tempo for productivity. This subtle shift happens without much effort. One minute you're scanning the room, absorbing the various sounds. The next you're immersed in your work. The external noise is still there, but it no longer competes with your thoughts. It has become part of the background, part of your flow. Even now, if you listen carefully, you might hear the light tapping of fingers on keyboards, the soft rustle of paper, the shuffle of feet on tile. It's a comforting soundtrack, one that speaks to the rhythm of productivity without needing to shout for attention. A dance that plays in the background. The coffee shop is more than just a place to sip a latte. It's a space of focus for many, quietly offering the soundtrack that helps them enter their work without force. It doesn't demand anything from you. It simply waits, allowing you to fall into its rhythm at your own pace. Without much thought, we often seek out these spaces, drawn by the comfort of the sounds that fill them. The low hum, the gentle background chatter, the distant clang of cups, they become the music of our minds, the cue to settle in and begin the tasks we've set before us. It's as if, in that space, there is no rush, no pressure to perform, only a soft, constant hum that encourages a kind of ease, a gentle focus that wraps around you. In the absence of silence, a quiet concentration emerges. And in that space, you might just find yourself working longer, with more clarity. Maybe you don't notice it at first, but the sounds are there. The coffee shop's hum isn't intrusive, it's a pulse, one that fills the air, and in doing so calms your mind. It's not an escape from the world. It's a way to be more present in it, wrapped in the quiet of life's soft rhythm. The noises are still there, even as you lose yourself in the work. The world continues, hums around you, and you don't have to pay attention to it. It simply exists, just outside the reach of your thoughts, waiting, and in that space, you find a quiet, perfect rhythm. Maybe you'll notice it tomorrow, or maybe you never will, but the sound will remain, subtle, always there, guiding your mind. It doesn't ask for attention, but it never really leaves. There's a sound that drifts through quiet rooms, the rhythm of a pen tapping gently against a desk. It comes without warning, almost like an impulse, the click of the pen punctuating the stillness. It's a small thing, but it's there, over and over, as if the movement is as essential as the thought itself. Even now you might find yourself doing it, tapping a pen, not even realizing that your hand is moving, fingers drumming out a beat. The sound is familiar, almost comforting, a soft distraction. It's almost like the body knows something the mind hasn't yet grasped, a small mechanical gesture that fills a gap in thought. Still, the tapping continues, steady, rhythmical. There's something about it that seems to help. It's not about the sound, really, but the feeling. The tiny repetitive motion almost acts as a bridge between thought and action. It's like the brain is sorting itself out, waiting for a solution to emerge. The tapping is just a momentary release. You might wonder why this happens. Why do we tap pens or pencils when we're deep in thought? There's no immediate answer, but it's clear that it happens more often when we're trying to remember something, or when our minds are busy making connections. It's as if the body has its own rhythm to help the mind focus. Even now you can probably hear it, the gentle tap of a pen on wood, the light echo of the beat as it repeats. It's not a decision, not a conscious action, it's just something that happens. The mind reaches for something, a word, a solution, and the hands respond in the background, moving on their own. It's a small thing, but it's part of the quiet dance that happens when we think. The tap seems to serve a subtle purpose, maybe even without us knowing. Some studies suggest that the repetitive motion helps to activate different areas of the brain, especially those related to memory and concentration. But even now it's still a mystery. Without much thought, we keep tapping, our hands moving in rhythm to something the mind seeks but hasn't yet found. It's not just pens either, pencils, fingers on a table, tapping feet. They all carry the same quiet beat, a beat that says, "I'm thinking," without needing to be said. It's something we learn early. As children we tap toys, pencils, anything within reach, finding comfort in the constant motion. In the quiet of a classroom, the tap of a pen becomes almost a natural extension of our thoughts. It's no longer just a pen but a companion in a moment of concentration. Sometimes we don't notice the sound until it stops. Then suddenly, the silence feels odd, empty. The tapping has become part of the rhythm, part of the pulse of our minds working. It's almost like we're waiting for something, a connection, an idea, a moment of clarity. The tap helps us pass the time in that space. Still, there's something almost hypnotic about it. The repetition, the soft click against the surface, like a metronome keeping time with a train of thought. Each tap seems to pull us just a little deeper into the process, like a rhythmic anchor in the sea of thought. The mind drifts, but the tapping remains, steady, and then, when the thought comes, the tapping stops. The fingers rest, the answer has arrived, the solution found, and the body knows it before the mind fully catches up. It's a quiet victory, marked only by the sudden silence. The tapping, which once filled the space, is now still a momentary pause in a much larger process. Maybe in that moment we understand something about ourselves. The tapping was never about distraction. It was about focus, a subconscious tool to help bring clarity, to guide the mind toward resolution. The pen, the tapping becomes part of the dance of thinking, an unseen partner that guides us through our thoughts. You might have noticed that the tapping slows when the answer arrives. The mind no longer needs the rhythm. The tapping becomes an echo, fading away. It is as if the motion was a way to release the tension of waiting. And now that it's over, there's a soft calmness in the air, a stillness. Even now, you might feel the pull of that motion. The tap of a pen, the scratch of a pencil, it's an old habit, a rhythm that's been there for as long as we can remember. Without much thought, it lingers, a quiet part of our routine, a gentle reminder that we are always in some way thinking. The next time you hear it, the tap of a pen, a foot tapping, fingers drumming, it won't seem so strange. It's simply part of the process. A rhythm we all know even if we don't fully understand why we do it. It's just there, helping us think, helping us move through the quiet spaces of our minds. Maybe you'll notice it tomorrow, or maybe you'll never hear it again. But when it happens, the tap of the pen, the rhythm in the background will be there, quietly accompanying you as you think. It doesn't ask for attention, but it never really leaves. There's a way a room settles into itself, almost without you noticing. The furniture in place, each piece having its own space, its own purpose. The chair by the window, the table in the center, the bookshelf leaning against the wall. And in that stillness, the room holds more than just objects. It holds your thoughts. Still, there's something strange about the way we remember rooms. The arrangement, the way the pieces fit together, affects how we recall things. It's as if the furniture is not just where we sit or sleep, but where the mind rests too. How we remember moments is shaped by the spaces we inhabit. Even now, you might find yourself remembering the layout of a room you haven't been in for years. The couch by the wall, the lamp in the corner, the slight shift of a chair, the opening of a door. It's as though the room itself has become part of the memory, its design etched into the edges of your mind. Without much thought, the mind creates connections between the things it sees and the things it experiences. It links events to the places where they happened, and oddly enough, those spaces stay with us. The arrangement of the furniture, the colors of the walls, even the pattern on the carpet, they all weave themselves into our memories. It's almost as if a room can anchor a memory. A sudden glance at a chair might bring back a conversation, the feel of a cup in your hand, the sound of laughter or a moment of silence. The way the space around you is laid out becomes a quiet keeper of those moments, gently pulling them from the recesses of your mind. Still, the memories aren't just about what happened, they are about how you felt in that space. The placement of the sofa, the distance between the bed and the window, these details create a sense of comfort or unease. The room's arrangement quietly influences the emotions you attach to those memories. Even in a place you've only been to once, the layout becomes something familiar. The desk in the corner, the bookcase against the wall, these are the landmarks of your memory, small markers of time, how quickly we forget, but how easily we can recall, once the room's structure brings it all back. Without much thought, you've probably been in a room that felt right or wrong, even if you couldn't explain why. The furniture arranged a certain way, the space feeling either open or confined, the effect on your mood, on your memory of the place, is subtle, yet it lingers long after you've left. It's curious how memory works like that, as if the environment itself has the power to shape what we remember. A messy room might carry the weight of 100 forgotten thoughts, while an orderly one seems to keep everything in place, like the contents of a well-kept drawer. And yet, it's not always the furniture's function that matters. It's the relationship between the pieces. The way a couch faces the television, or how a desk sits beneath a window, frames everything you do in that space. And when you think back, it's not just the objects you remember, it's the feeling of being inside that arrangement. Still, in a room that is unfamiliar, you might feel a sense of disorientation. It's as if the lack of memory, of connection to the space, makes everything harder to recall. Without the soft guidance of familiar furniture, you might find it difficult to remember where you've been or what you've done. The layout, then, is a sort of mental map. Even now, you might be picturing the room where you sleep. The bed facing the door, the chair by the nightstand, the way the furniture feels like it holds you in place, its arrangement pulling the day's events into focus. That room, that specific layout, is like a bookmark in your life story. Without much thought, The act of walking into a room can trigger a cascade of memories. The familiar spots where things happened, the shape of the space around you, everything feels woven into the past. It's the power of furniture, not just as things to sit on, but as tools that help organize our memories. It's strange, though, how little we notice it. The way a chair's position can make us feel more open, more relaxed, or even more confined. The simple act of rearranging furniture can change how we experience time in a space, and by extension, how we remember it. A change in layout, a shift in perspective. Even now, the simple act of imagining your favorite room can bring feelings of comfort. The way the layout shapes the space, guiding your movements and your thoughts. It's more than just design. It's an invisible force, creating an emotional landscape that stays with you long after the room is out of view. Without much thought, you may find that rooms from your past are more than just places. They are the containers of everything you've felt, everything you've experienced. And it's the furniture, the positioning, the choices made, that pulls those memories from the quiet corners of your mind, just when you need them most. Maybe you'll notice it next time you rearrange a room, or even when you walk into one that feels familiar. You won't need to look for it. The arrangement will already be there, waiting for you. It won't ask for attention. It will simply be a quiet, steady presence, holding your memories in place. The kitchen is quiet. The hum of the refrigerator, the distant sound of water running in the sink. But then the toaster. It waits, still almost innocent in its small corner. And then, without warning, it erupts 2 golden slices of bread, suddenly thrust into the air. Startled, you jump. But why? It's only a toaster, something so ordinary, so expected. But there's something about that sudden movement, that flash of action, that breaks the rhythm of the room. You don't see it coming. And in that split second, your heart races, a brief shock of surprise. It's a small scare, but one with a strange power. Without much thought, it happens again. You forget about it as quickly as it came. The bread pops up, and you're caught off guard again. It's not a loud sound, not a terrifying movement. But something about the abruptness, the unexpectedness of it, causes you to react, to jump, to be reminded that even the smallest of moments can disrupt us. Even now, if you stand there staring at the toaster, waiting for the next slice to rise, there's a hesitation, a quiet awareness of the moment before it happens, a silent understanding that the stillness won't last, a brief, harmless jolt, but one that catches the body off guard. The toaster, it seems, has the power to surprise us in ways we don't always notice. The sound is so familiar, yet it never quite loses its edge. That quiet pop. The sound of something being freed, like a door swinging open. But unlike the door, there's no gradual build-up, no slow movement. It's sudden, a burst of life from something that looked so still. And somehow, that's enough to shake us for a moment. Still, it's strange. A kitchen appliance, a simple everyday object, designed for nothing more than convenience. But the toaster seems to carry a certain unpredictability with it. Something about the way it pauses, holds its breath, and then releases. It creates a space between what we expect and what we experience. A tiny disruption in the smooth flow of time. You'd think, after the first time, you'd be ready. But you never are. There's always a moment's hesitation. A slight doubt, even when you know it's coming. The toaster never fails to catch you off guard. You wonder if somewhere in its design, it was meant to do this, to cause this small break in the day, this brief, unintentional shock. A small object, a simple object, and yet its timing feels deliberate, as if it understands the rhythm of the world and knows just when to interrupt. There's something so uniquely mechanical about it, something precise in the way it delivers its jolt. It doesn't rush. It waits, and then, in a flash, it's there. Maybe that's what it is then. The toaster works in perfect silence, only to erupt when we least expect it. And in that moment, it tricks us, pulling us out of our own thoughts, creating a tiny pause where none was needed. A small jump, harmless but sharp, and then just as quickly, we return. It's an odd little thing. This toaster, we rely on it daily, a trusted friend that makes our mornings just a little easier. But in its silence, it holds something else, a quiet potential for surprise, a small sharp movement that disrupts the peace. It's a reminder that, even in the most mundane, the unexpected can find its way in. Even now, when you hear that click, you know it's time. You know the bread will rise, but it's still there, the pause before, that moment of stillness, and then the sudden burst of activity. It's never something we're prepared for. It's always just enough to make us jump, just enough to wake us from our quiet thoughts. It's not loud. It doesn't crash or shout. It doesn't linger. It simply is. The pop-up toaster doesn't scream for attention, but in its small mechanical dance, it takes us out of our world for a split second. It draws us in, pulls us away, and then leaves us unchanged, yet briefly disturbed. Maybe it's the way the toaster seems to hold its breath. The pause, the silence, before the release. It's almost as though it's waiting for something more, but it doesn't need to wait. It knows the exact moment to strike. The moment when you're least expecting it, and in that space you are caught. There's no need to analyze it. The toaster, in its simplicity, does what it was designed to do. It toasts, it pops, and it waits. And yet every time it catches us, with that small jolt, that small surprise, it's never anything to fear. And yet the body reacts. The mind wonders. Maybe it's not about the toaster at all. Maybe it's about the way we live, always assuming that things will stay still, always expecting the quiet to remain unbroken. And when it's disrupted, when something changes, however small, we are reminded that control is an illusion. A small thing, like a toaster, reminds us of that. And as the bread pops up again, you wait for the moment to pass. It's done. The surprise is over. But there's still that feeling in the air, lingering for just a moment, a reminder that sometimes the smallest things, the most ordinary moments, can pull us out of our thoughts. And for just a moment, we're caught. It simply waits, quiet, unchanged. It's a quiet moment, waiting for the last sliver of progress to fill. The screen flickers gently as the loading bar makes its slow journey across. You've seen it before, the sluggish crawl at first, followed by a sudden burst of speed toward the end. It almost feels like magic. Still, something about it doesn't feel quite right. The bar, once reluctant and hesitant, begins to move faster as the finish line draws near. You might notice it too, how the seconds stretch longer at the beginning, and then, as if in a race, it quickens toward the end. What causes it? Even now, as you wait, there's a quiet unease that builds, a sense that this final stretch is somehow deceptive. The anticipation lingers longer than the actual waiting, as though the bar knows you're eager, that you've invested time in its progress. It promises to finish faster, but it's never quite so simple. Without much thought, we've all accepted this rhythm. The slow and the fast are part of our digital lives. And yet the reason behind it feels less than logical. It's as though the bar speeds up, not because the data is arriving faster, but because it's learned how to trick us into feeling the end is near. You can almost imagine the bar itself, pulling back just a bit, teasing you with every pixel that fills the empty space. It's a game, but one you've agreed to play. The end comes faster, not because of efficiency, but because the bar wants you to believe it. It's a small lie, repeated endlessly. It seems simple enough. Yet there's something quietly unsettling about how these bars create an illusion of progress, accelerating just when you're about to lose patience. They serve a purpose, delaying that moment of full expectation, extending your engagement just enough. The world, it seems, is not yet ready for you to move on. Still, think about it. Have you ever caught yourself staring at that final stretch, waiting for the bar to hit 100%? Perhaps you've checked the time, noticed how long you've been waiting, and then seen the final few percent fly by. It's as though the bar was waiting for you to notice it. This is no accident. The designers of these systems know well how our minds work. They know that the moment of relief is just as important as the moment of tension. If the bar were to move too quickly, we'd feel cheated, incomplete. It's the suspense that completes the experience. even if it's all a false show. Even now, as we glance at our devices, we've learned to anticipate the final push, that satisfying rush of completion. The bar has become something more than a progress indicator. It's a little ritual, a brief moment of suspense. The satisfaction isn't from the completion, but from the way it makes us wait. Without much thought, we've adapted to it. We don't question why the bar speeds up, we simply accept it as part of the process. The real question is whether we'd feel the same way if it didn't happen. Would we notice the time spent if the bar moved steadily from beginning to end? The bar's trick isn't in the speed, but in the illusion of control. It accelerates just enough to make us feel as though we've made it, to convince us that our patience was worth something. But in truth, the final sprint is only as long as it needs to be to push us over the edge. It's a small thing, but it's part of our daily rhythm now. Every loading screen, every download, every update, they all play the same game. The dance between slow and fast. It's almost as if the moment the bar reaches that final percentage, it's not the computer that wins, but our own expectations. Still, you've probably seen it happen. The bar glides to 99%, then slows. You think it's done, but it's not. It races to the finish in a final rush, a false urgency that mirrors our own impatience. The digital world has learned how to read us, how to match its rhythm to our need for completion. Maybe, after all this time, you've never wondered why it happens. Maybe you've simply accepted the lie, as most of us do, and yet when you sit with it, the pace of the loading bar feels strangely familiar, as though it's been tailored to a rhythm that's been with you all along. The trick is simple, but effective. The bar doesn't just fill, it plays with time itself. It bends, slows, then accelerates, following an invisible clock that has more to do with your patience than with the data moving behind the scenes. And in that moment, the satisfaction comes not from the download, but from the speed. Perhaps, next time you wait for a bar to load, you'll notice the delicate dance between anticipation and relief. You'll see it for what it is, a quiet, subtle trick that has been designed to mirror the unspoken rhythm of our lives. The moment the bar reaches 100%, you won't be surprised. The lie has worked, it simply waits, quiet, unchanged. There's a soft buzz in the air as you reach for a cup of coffee. On the counter, a sign catches your eye. Free samples today. Something inside shifts, even if you hadn't planned on trying anything. The word hangs there, like a gentle invitation, and something pulls you toward it. You've seen it before, that subtle promise. It's everywhere, in stores, on websites, flashing across the screen. The word free glimmers like a hidden treasure. It doesn't matter if it's a tiny item or an extravagant giveaway. The moment you see it, something in the brain wakes up, sharp and hungry. Still, you might wonder, why does the word stir something deep inside? Why does free have this power over us? There's no immediate cost, no visible price to pay. It seems simple enough. Yet, when offered, it often taps into something primal, a kind of magic that makes people behave oddly, impulsively. Without much thought, you might reach for the sample, a mere bite or sip, something you hadn't intended to want. You might not even like it, but it's free. The word lingers in your mind, becoming its own justification. It's almost as if the act of receiving something without giving anything back feels like a small victory. Even now, people fill carts online, not for the product they came for, but because they saw the words free shipping. It's an odd twist, a seemingly insignificant incentive, yet it often leads to purchases they might not have made. The act of avoiding a small cost somehow outweighs any reasoned logic. That's the thing about free. It turns reason on its head. Psychologists call it zero-cost bias, the idea that when something is free, it doesn't trigger the usual calculations of value. We abandon normal thinking, entering a realm where we might accept a poor deal, as long as the price tag is nothing. Still, it's everywhere. You might stop to think about how free can shape not just the way we shop, but how we behave in the smallest corners of our lives. Think of the last time you grabbed a free pen from a hotel or a promotional event. Was the pen useful? Maybe not. but it was free. There's a certain magic in that absence. The idea of no cost feels like a loophole. It's as if for a brief moment, the usual rules don't apply. The item itself, no matter how trivial, becomes secondary to the allure of receiving without owing, a small escape from the typical flow of things. When free enters the equation, it's not the item that changes, it's us. Our decisions shift with an almost imperceptible push. A bottle of water, a keychain, a magazine, all of these things suddenly seem more desirable simply because they don't come with a price. It's irrational, yet undeniably compelling. You can't help but feel it when you see the word, even if you know deep down that it's nothing but a clever trick. The item is often of little value, but it's the potential for no cost that makes it feel like a small victory. A moment of indulgence without consequence. Without much thought, your hand might reach for something free, perhaps without even needing it. The feeling, the rush of the word itself, floods the brain with a small reward. The price is nothing, but the satisfaction. It's different. It's less about the item and more about the experience of receiving it. Even now, you might consider the next time you see a free sign. You'll be drawn in once more, despite knowing the pattern, the behavior. It's as if free has its own gravitational pull, a force that sways us with its quiet, undeniable power. Something about it, subtle as it is, reaches deep. Perhaps the most curious part is that we don't always acknowledge this behavior. It's habitual, tucked away in our subconscious, directing our choices before we even realize it. A simple word, a gentle invitation, and our entire thinking shifts, bending around the idea of getting something for nothing. Still, as we stand before that sign or click on the link, we find ourselves doing it again, justifying the purchase or the grab, as if we've somehow beaten the system. The word free becomes a portal, and we willingly step through it every time, chasing that small, illogical thrill. It's almost as if we're reminded, in that fleeting moment, of a simpler time. A time when something for nothing felt like an uncomplicated joy. Maybe, deep down, we're just chasing that feeling. The idea that for just a moment, we can exist outside the rules. And so we keep going, driven by a small, quiet force. The item itself disappears, but the feeling lingers. It's no longer about the pen, or the trinket, or the sample. It's about the brief moment where we felt like we were given something, with nothing in return. It fades away, like the click of a button. Maybe you'll notice it next time, or maybe you won't. The word free doesn't linger in your thoughts for long, but in its wake, something shifts. Quietly, imperceptibly, we find ourselves still moving toward it, always chasing that moment of unexpected, irrational pleasure. There's something about a desk that's not quite neat, a corner of a room that's slightly disorganized, the clutter that piles up, perhaps unnoticed, but somehow still there. Paper, pens, little bits of things. It's not chaos, not exactly, but it's not perfectly tidy either. It's something in between. Even now you might look around noticing the small messes we all tend to overlook. A book out of place, a coffee cup left beside a stack of notes. These small things don't seem like much at first, but in their quiet presence, something else happens. It's not about being untidy, it's about something else entirely. Without much thought, you might dismiss it. The mess of daily life, the things left out and forgotten. It seems like it should be cleared away, erased, but there's an underlying current, a quiet hum. This small bit of clutter, though it's often seen as a distraction, can bring something unexpected, a spark. Still, it doesn't happen the way we might think. It's not the disorder itself, not the random scattering of things, that ignites creativity. It's the slight disruption it causes in your environment, the unanticipated moment where your mind wanders, where you see a connection, a new way of thinking. It's subtle, quiet. You might wonder how this small mess creates anything new. How could a few papers scattered about or a forgotten pen lead to something fresh? The answer isn't loud. It's not the clutter, but the openness it creates. The sense of freedom, where ideas aren't boxed in, neatly aligned in rows, and yet this freedom comes quietly. As the small distractions form, the mind begins to shift its focus. It doesn't immediately stop its regular patterns, but in this new space, small thoughts, new possibilities start to weave their way in. The brain isn't just trying to solve one thing, it's allowed to wander. Without much thought, you might even feel the urge to clean up, to put everything back in order. It's tempting, almost automatic, but consider for a moment how the mess makes you feel. There's a lightness to it, a calm openness, a subtle chaos that offers more than it takes away. Still, the mind is strange. It likes things to feel comfortable, familiar, and while that comfort might bring some peace, it doesn't always encourage new ideas. A bit of clutter, in contrast, creates a kind of tension. It's not a sharp discomfort, but a soft, inviting nudge. Like a door left ajar, even now, you might feel the pull between neatness and spontaneity. The order we're taught to crave, to seek, might feel like the natural way. But there's something liberating in the mess, something playful in the little bits of disorder that allow new pathways to emerge. It's like an unspoken invitation to let your thoughts roam. Still, not all clutter is the same. It's the mild disorder, the light mess that makes the difference. Too much clutter becomes its own burden. A weight that distracts, clutters the mind in a way that stifles rather than encourages. But just enough leaves space for creativity to stretch, to breathe. In the corners of your space, this mild clutter rests quietly. It's not intrusive, it doesn't demand attention, but it's there subtly influencing the way you think. It creates a backdrop for your thoughts to run across, a natural flow that feels both comforting and free. And that, it turns out, is enough. Without much thought, you might look at your own space now. Is there room for something unexpected? Is there a small disruption in your usual patterns that could open the door to new thoughts? The clutter, the mess, isn't an obstacle, but an invitation. It's not just a place to work, it's a space to wander. Still, the best part of this subtle chaos is that it doesn't ask for anything in return. You don't need to acknowledge it or even focus on it. It's there quietly sitting, creating the conditions for something new to appear. Sometimes, the best ideas come from a place that feels just a little bit out of order. Maybe, tomorrow you'll notice the small clutter around you. You'll see how it shifts the air, how it invites a little bit of creativity into your day. Or maybe you won't. Maybe it simply waits, unbothered, quiet, unchanged, just enough to let the thoughts flow, without a clear beginning or end. There's something about the rhythm of a keyboard, the soft click of each key as it is pressed. The sound fills the air, a simple, almost soothing noise. The click-clack, repetitive and steady, carries with it an odd sense of progress, like the tapping of a clock, marking time and task. Still, the sound is subtle, easy to ignore, but not quite. You've heard it countless times, in offices, in libraries, in rooms of silence, where the only thing that can be heard is the quiet rush of fingers on keys. It's not just noise, it's the sound of work happening. Even now, as you read these words, you can almost hear it. The tap, tap, tap of a keyboard under your fingers. Each click a small movement, each one somehow vital. It's easy to forget that this rhythm, this simple sound, holds power over how we think and feel in a moment of work. Without much thought, you may find yourself shifting slightly, perhaps sitting a little straighter. The tapping sound pushes you forward, even if you're not actively typing. Just hearing it in the background creates a quiet pull toward doing more. It's as if the sound gives you permission to focus, to get things done. There's a strange familiarity to it. This sound, something about it feels intentional. When you hear those keys being pressed, it's as if the world around you becomes quieter, as if there is a single focused task at hand. The rhythm carries with it a sense of purpose, a steady drive. Still, it's easy to dismiss it as something insignificant, a noise we've all heard 1,000 times without noticing its effect. But that effect is real. The sound of typing, whether in a quiet room or in the hum of a busy office, signals something: productivity, movement, progress. Even when the work itself feels slow, even now it's almost like the clicking creates a space where focus can grow. The more the keys tap, the more you feel the need to do the same. Perhaps it's the pace that encourages it, a gentle momentum. The rhythm draws you in, without you even realizing it, guiding you toward the work that lies before you. Without much thought, we adapt to it. The tapping becomes a part of the environment. You may not even consciously acknowledge it, but the clicking becomes a backdrop. It's like a rhythm that sets the pace, without rushing you, just gently encouraging your own motions. And as you type, it moves with you. Perhaps it's because the tapping sounds are steady and predictable. There's no rush in them, no urgency. They just continue, as long as you're there, as long as you're working. This steadiness creates an invisible flow. It feels like time is moving forward, and you with it, whether you're aware of it or not. Still, it's more than just the noise itself. It's the environment that it helps create. The tapping builds an atmosphere of work, even if you're not consciously trying to be productive. It's as though the sound itself carries the expectation of progress. You hear it, and your mind follows suit. It becomes natural. Even now, the rhythm may be starting to affect you. The subtle tap-tap of each word you read, each sentence you think about. The noise isn't in your control, but somehow it invites you to do something, to keep moving forward. You might not even know why, but the sound, without fail, keeps pulling you in. Without much thought, your fingers might start moving too, even if you're not ready to type. Just the sound, just the act of hearing it, compels the body to act. It's as if the environment is aligning itself with the idea of productivity. Even the faintest click encourages you to align your thoughts with action. In the end, the clicking sound doesn't need to be loud to make its presence felt. It's the consistency, the rhythm, the way it becomes part of your own flow. It doesn't demand attention, but instead creates a gentle undercurrent, a subtle pull toward doing something. Something simple, something productive. Still, it's not just the typing sounds that make us feel productive. It's the act of focusing, of engaging with that rhythm. It's as if, once the typing begins, it signals to the mind that it's time to work. A signal, soft but clear, that this moment is for action, for progress, for creating something. Even now the thought lingers. The rhythm of the keyboard, subtle and steady, creating a space for action, for work. It's not always about the work itself. Sometimes, it's the space the sound creates, the permission to focus, to move, to act. It's there in the background, quiet but persistent. Perhaps, when you hear it next, you'll notice it. The clicking that isn't just noise, the steady rhythm that lures you into motion. It's there, like a quiet, invisible thread that runs through the fabric of your day, connecting each task with the promise of progress. And when the typing stops, it leaves a space. The sound fades away, but it lingers in your mind, still pulling you gently forward. Maybe you didn't realize how much it guided you. Maybe next time, you'll hear it again, and you'll know. It's always there, a small rhythm that simply waits, quiet, unnoticed, but never really gone. There's a flicker in the screen, a pause, then a shift. The character you've chosen, the one with its slightly rounded shoulders or its unreasonably bright eyes, stirs into life. In that moment, something changes. It becomes more than just a collection of pixels. It becomes yours. Even now, you might recall the first time you created an avatar, the careful placement of the eyes, the choice of hair, the selection of a favorite outfit. It didn't feel like just choosing a look. It felt like giving life to something, like making a small part of yourself tangible in another form. Still, this feeling doesn't fade easily. The more you interact with your avatar, the more it seems to become intertwined with your own sense of self. It's as if, with each move, each action, it begins to take on a piece of you. Not just how it looks, but how it feels to be seen through it. Without much thought, the avatar moves as you would. Maybe it's a head tilt, or a small gesture when you pick up something in the game. The more time you spend with it, the more it feels like an extension of you. It responds to the world in ways that feel natural, familiar. Even now, as you picture it, that avatar may seem less like a separate entity and more like a mirror. You've spent hours with it, guiding it, shaping it. At times it can feel like it's just another version of you, exploring a world you might never enter, doing things you could never do in real life. Still, the attachment is real. The world it occupies, even if it's made up of polygons and code, starts to feel like home. The spaces it explores feel like places you've walked through. The people it meets become faces you recognize. And each win, each little accomplishment, feels as though you've achieved it yourself. Without much thought, you might find yourself caring for the avatar, almost like you would care for another person. You might want to protect it, dress it well, make it stronger. There's something about seeing it grow, seeing it change, that feels like you've given it a purpose, a place in your world. Even now, when you're not controlling it, it can still linger. The character may be idle, standing still in a corner of the screen, but in your mind it continues its journey. It's like it lives in a world of its own, even when you're not looking. It doesn't need your attention, but it still feels yours. Still, when the avatar faces a challenge, you're right there. You feel a little rush when it succeeds, a small ache when it stumbles. These moments are more than just pixels moving on a screen. They echo with a part of you. It's as though every action it takes is a reflection of your own effort. Without much thought, the connection deepens. It's not about the physical actions anymore, the simple tasks or achievements. It's the deeper feeling of owning something that moves, that breathes, that evolves. A part of you is always with it, always guiding it forward. It becomes a little more like a friend. Even now, you may remember how a part of you wanted to make the avatar perfect, just as you wished you could. But the truth is, it was never about perfection. It was about the moments shared, the little triumphs, the quiet failures. The avatar grows, just as you grow, and you experience it together. Still, there's a unique sense of fulfillment in shaping an avatar. In many ways, it reflects something more than just a digital creation. It becomes a projection of your own desires, your preferences, your vision, what you choose for it to wear, where you send it. Those choices are an imprint of you. Even now, you might pause and wonder, where does the avatar begin, and where do you end? The line can blur, especially as you continue to shape its path. The choices you make for it often feel like the choices you might make for yourself, as if you're seeing another version of who you could be. Still, in the quiet moments, it's easy to forget that it's not real. It's not flesh and bone, but for all the difference, it feels very real. The emotions, the connection, the sense of ownership, it's as if the avatar becomes a part of your own personal universe, an entity you created, but one that also shapes you. Without much thought, you might catch yourself thinking about it when you're away. What's it up to? Is it still out there, moving, changing? There's a comfort in knowing that it is. It's like an extension of you that continues, even when you're not looking. A small piece of your mind, free to explore. Even now, there's an odd sense of fulfillment when you return to it. It's still there, waiting, as if no time has passed. You jump back in, and the avatar greets you like an old friend, ready for the next step in its journey. And for a moment it feels like you never really left. Still, it's not just about control, it's about connection. About how, in the quiet corners of a game or a virtual world, the avatar becomes a vessel for something deeper. It becomes more than just a digital figure. It becomes a part of you, existing in a world only you and it can truly understand. Even now, you might feel that quiet sense of ownership, not just of the avatar itself, but of its world. The world it moves through, the challenges it faces, the moments it experiences, they are yours. The avatar, as digital as it is, remains a reflection of you, and in that it is as real as anything else. Maybe tomorrow you'll see it again, or maybe it will be just another thought, lingering in the back of your mind. But no matter how much time passes, that connection will remain. Quietly, subtly, like a friend waiting for you to return. And when you do, it will always feel like coming home. It's quiet. The world is still, but your eyes move quickly across the page, skimming the words. You don't have to think about it. Your mind fills in the gaps, smoothing over the edges, making sense of the fragments. It's almost as if the text itself is complete, even when it's not. Still, you might notice that something seems a little off. A letter missing here, a word slightly altered there, but the meaning remains, clear as day. Your eyes move forward, following the rhythm, and your mind does the rest. It knows what's supposed to be there, even without being told. Even now, you might not consciously notice it, the way your mind pulls together incomplete information. You may glance at a sentence with a missing letter or two, and yet you don't stop. You don't hesitate. It's a strange thing, how you can continue, how your brain seems to know exactly what to do. Without much thought, you might simply assume it's the power of familiarity, how often you've seen these words before, how well you know the language. But it's more than that. There's something deeper happening in the background, a kind of mental shortcut that helps you make sense of the world around you, even when things aren't perfect. It starts with pattern recognition. Every word you read is a pattern, a combination of letters that over time you've come to recognize and understand. When a letter is missing, your brain doesn't stop to analyze it. Instead, it fills in the blank based on your previous knowledge, predicting the missing piece without you even noticing. The same thing happens with incomplete shapes. When you look at a chair, you don't see just 4 legs and a seat. You see a whole object, a pattern you've learned. Even if part of the chair is hidden, your brain fills in the rest, filling in the gaps with what it expects to be there. The same happens with letters. Still, when it comes to reading, the process is faster than you might realize. You might glance at a word with several missing letters, and in an instant your brain has already made sense of it. It's not thinking consciously, but responding automatically, filling in the gaps with a kind of mental shorthand. Without much thought, your mind assumes the missing letters will follow a certain pattern. It doesn't matter if the letters are out of place or missing entirely. Your brain quickly adapts, using context to fill in what's lacking. You don't need to analyze the gaps, you simply move forward trusting the rhythm of your own mind. And it's not just language that works this way. The same principle applies to faces, to voices, even to emotions. Our brains are constantly filling in missing details, building the rest of the story based on what we already know. It's an essential part of how we navigate the world, keeping things flowing smoothly, even when they're incomplete. Even now, you might not realize just how often your brain is doing this. You move through life, taking in information, and filling in what's missing without even pausing to think about it. It's only when something disrupts that flow that you notice. But most of the time, the blanks are filled before you can even see them. Your mind doesn't just stop when it encounters something unfamiliar. It doesn't freeze, searching for each missing letter, each missing piece. Instead, it works behind the scenes, instantly predicting what should come next. It's not perfect, but it's close enough to keep you moving forward, understanding, processing the world around you. Still, even in this mental shortcut, there's a kind of magic. The fact that your brain can so quickly predict, so effortlessly fill in what's missing, speaks to something deeper in how we process information. It's a rhythm, a flow, that keeps you moving through the day without ever having to consciously think about every little detail. Without much thought, we take it for granted. We read, we see, we hear, and we fill in what's missing. It's seamless, effortless. We don't stop to question how the brain does it. We just trust it, knowing that it will always make sense of what's in front of us, even when some pieces are missing. Maybe tomorrow, when you read a sign or glance at a note, you'll notice the spaces, the missing letters, the blanks that are always filled. Your brain will keep working, quietly behind the scenes, making sense of what's there and what isn't. It doesn't ask for attention, but it never really leaves. You've passed it countless times, and each time it feels just a little bit more familiar. The street corner, the shop window, the worn sign hanging slightly crooked. It's nothing special, really. Yet somehow there's a comfort there, an ease in seeing it. You know it. It's part of your world now. Still, the world is filled with things we've never seen. And yet when we return to a place, a space we know, there's a sense of security that doesn't come with the unfamiliar. It's as if the environment wraps itself around you. The more you see it, the safer it feels. Even now when you think about it, that sense of safety, of quiet comfort lingers. It's almost like a constant hum in the background, there without you even noticing. The first time you saw something, it was neutral. But over time, familiarity began to turn that neutrality into something you trust without much thought. You've already returned to that place before it even comes into view. You know it, your mind associates it with something good, something safe, and this feeling isn't accidental. It's something we seek without realizing it. The familiar becomes our anchor, the unknown, a subtle weight in the chest. Still, the more we see something, the more it becomes a part of the rhythm of our lives. A new store might feel exciting at first, but there's something comforting about the places you know. The ones that don't need explaining. The ones that feel like they've always been there. Even now, the idea of something unfamiliar may create a slight hesitation, a pause. The unknown requires effort. It asks you to adjust, to explore. The familiar, however, asks nothing. It simply exists, like an old sweater you've worn 1,000 times. It's known, it's yours, and it's safe. Still, we rarely think about it. We don't question why something feels familiar. We just know it does. The more we see something, the more it becomes a part of the background of our lives. It's woven into the fabric of our daily existence, a quiet comfort, without much thought. You might walk into a place and feel instantly at ease. The walls, the familiar sound of a creaky door, the smell of coffee in the air. It's not just the place that's comfortable, it's the repeated exposure to it. The 1,000 tiny experiences that have layered over time. Even now, as you walk through a familiar room, you might not notice how your body relaxes. The feeling is subtle, but it's there. A sigh of relief without even realizing it. You know this space. You've spent countless moments here. It's safe. The unknown, though, asks for your attention. Still, this is not just a matter of preference. It's a matter of the mind. The more we encounter something, the more our brain begins to associate it with safety. This repeated exposure makes the familiar feel right. The unknown is simply a threat until proven otherwise. Without much thought, you've learned that things you've seen before, places, faces, even words, bring a sense of calm. They don't need to be new. They just need to exist. They need to be known. And that knowledge, that familiarity, creates a space where your mind can relax. Even now, you might notice how your mood shifts when you're surrounded by the familiar. The comfort isn't in the objects themselves. It's in their place in your life. They've been there before, and so they will be again. There's a reassurance in that cycle. A quiet, steady rhythm. Still, there's a reason we seek familiarity. It's not just about preference. It's about the brain's need for predictability, for safety. The more something shows up, the less effort it requires. Familiarity becomes a soft cushion against the sharp edges of the unknown. It doesn't demand your attention. Without much thought, you might have walked past the same street, the same building, and barely noticed it. It's not special, not anything new, but your brain, your senses, have cataloged it. And now, every time you see it, it brings with it a layer of security, a quiet ease. Even now, you might think of places you return to, places that give you a sense of peace without doing anything. They've never changed, yet each time you see them, they feel warmer. It's the effect of familiarity. It's why the unknown feels distant, and the known, so close. Still, you've probably never noticed how you seek the familiar. You walk into rooms with a sense of expectation. It's not conscious, it's simply how you move through the world. The more you see something, The more it becomes yours, the safer it feels, the more natural it becomes. Without much thought, you've probably felt the difference between visiting a new place and returning to an old one. The new place asks for your energy, your focus. The old place asks nothing. It simply is. It's where you belong, and it doesn't need to speak to tell you that. Maybe you'll notice it tomorrow, or maybe you'll never will. But each time you return to something familiar, it'll be there. The quiet hum of comfort, of security, of something that simply belongs. It waits in the background, a soft pull in the rhythm of your day, always waiting. The soft, steady ticking of a clock fills the room, almost unnoticed at first. The rhythm of the sound seems to echo in the quiet air, each tick a soft pulse, a gentle mark in time. It's a noise that's almost too familiar, and yet somehow it begins to change the way you perceive time itself. Even now, as the clock ticks away, you might not feel its weight. The hands move with slow precision, each second passing just as it always does. Yet the sound, the ticking, the rhythmic pulse begins to influence something deeper. A quiet shift, a subtle change in how you experience the passage of each moment. Without much thought, the ticking noise might start to draw your attention, gently pulling you into its rhythm. At first, it's just a background hum almost easy to ignore. But the longer you listen, the more it seems to stretch time, making each moment feel just a little bit longer than before. It's almost as if the ticking fills the space around you. Still, there's something unsettling about the sound. As you become more aware of it, the passing seconds seem to slow, each tick stretching just a little bit longer. The moment you felt would slip by in the blink of an eye now feels somehow more drawn out, more heavy with anticipation. It's almost as if the clock is marking each passing second with an emphasis you didn't notice before. Even now, you might feel as though time is stretching, pulling apart. A minute that once seemed quick now lingers, the steady tick-tick-tick becoming louder, more persistent. It's a curious feeling how something so simple, so ordinary, can quietly change how we experience the flow of time. The more you listen, the longer each second feels without much thought. You might glance at the clock, wondering how much time has passed. It's been minutes, perhaps more, but it feels longer. The ticking noise, so familiar and constant, has somehow made the time seem more expansive, as if the hands of the clock themselves are moving at a different pace. A trick of perception, perhaps. Still, the ticking continues, marking each moment with its quiet insistence. It's a sound that guides you through time without ever needing to say a word. And as you listen, the seconds stretch before you, filling the space in a way that makes the passage of time feel more real, more tangible. You can almost feel it, the weight of each tick. Even now, as you continue to listen, there's a slight shift in your awareness. Time, which once seemed so fluid, now feels more defined, more anchored. The ticking of the clock has transformed it from an abstract concept into something you can almost touch. A second becomes a physical thing, defined by the rhythm that fills the air. Without much thought, you begin to notice how the ticking has influenced your actions. You move more slowly, more deliberately, as if each second demands more attention. The clock's rhythm has become a subtle force, guiding your behavior, altering your pace without you even realizing it. Time, once intangible, is now measured in the soft sound of a tick. Still, it's not the clock that has changed. It's your perception, your experience of time. The ticking has become a marker, a reminder that time is always moving forward, always slipping away. But with each tick, time doesn't feel like it's passing unnoticed. It's felt. The seconds have weight. And the ticking ensures that you feel it. Even now, you might notice how the ticking affects your sense of urgency. As the seconds stretch on, you might feel the need to act more quickly, to fill the space of time with movement. The ticking, in its gentle insistence, has a way of making each passing moment feel more precious, more urgent. It draws you in, almost without you realizing it. Without much thought, the ticking becomes a companion, a constant presence in your awareness. It's the pulse of the room, the heartbeat of time itself, and with each tick, you feel a quiet push to move, to act, to fill the time with something meaningful. The ticking has become more than a sound. It's a reminder, a subtle guide. Still, in a strange way, the ticking also makes time feel slower, more expansive. When you focus on it, time stretches, as if the seconds hold their breath, waiting for the next tick to break the silence. Each moment seems to last just a little longer. It's as if the ticking has slowed the flow of time, even as it moves forward. Even now, you might find yourself noticing the ticking in a way you hadn't before. It's more than just a noise, it's a force shaping your experience of the moment. Time, which once felt like a blur, now feels like a collection of individual seconds, each marked by the soft sound that fills the air around you. Without much thought, you begin to wonder what would happen if the ticking stopped. If the clock were to fall silent, would time feel different? Would it slip away unnoticed, or would you feel its absence, its quiet pull? It's a strange thought, but the ticking has made you aware of time in a way you hadn't been before. Still, the clock continues its steady march, its ticking a constant in the background. It's a reminder that time is always with you, always moving, and as you listen, the seconds continue to stretch and contract, each marked by the quiet pulse of the clock. It's a rhythm you can't escape, a beat that guides you through the moments. Even now, as the ticking continues, you begin to realize that it doesn't matter how much time has passed. What matters is how you feel it, how the rhythm of the clock has shaped your experience. Time is a fluid thing, but the ticking has given it structure, given it a shape that you can almost touch, and with each tick, it passes. There's a moment when you realize you've been walking for a while, and the surroundings look strangely familiar, but you're still unsure of where you are. The ground beneath your feet feels solid, but somehow, the path ahead doesn't quite make sense. Without much thought, you keep walking, just hoping to find something that feels right. It happens quietly, almost imperceptibly at first. You're lost, not in the deep, dangerous woods, but in the open space, a park, a wide street, somewhere familiar. And yet somehow, you're still moving in circles, like a slow dance, drawn back to where you started, without knowing how. Still, it's strange, isn't it? To walk, to move with intent, yet feel so uncertain. You might glance at the horizon, thinking that a far-off landmark will help you. But there's something about that feeling of being lost that pulls you in. You keep walking, each step almost without purpose. Even now, you might catch yourself drifting from one direction to the next, but it doesn't feel like a true path. You thought you knew where you were going, yet here you are, moving in a loop. This isn't a path with a beginning and an end. It's a slow, endless circle. You're not alone in this. Studies show that people often walk in circles when they're disoriented. In wide open spaces, with no obvious markers to guide them, the brain loses its bearings. The sense of direction becomes distorted, and you start turning, repeating the same steps over and over without even realizing it. Without much thought, your mind starts to shift its focus, focusing on small things, maybe a sound in the distance, the feeling of the ground underfoot, a far-off building you thought you recognized. But your steps don't carry you forward, they loop back. It's as if your mind is looking for something familiar, something solid to hold on to. But how do we end up moving in these circles? It's all about the way the brain processes the world around us. When we're lost, the brain loses its ability to gauge distance and direction properly. Our mental compass falters, and instead of finding our way forward, we begin to retrace our steps, unconsciously drawn back to where we began. Still, there's something fascinating about it. The way the mind works in these quiet, repetitive motions. It's like the brain is trying to find a way to reset, to make sense of what feels disordered. And so your feet, guided by this inner sense of confusion, follow the loop. The pattern becomes a strange, almost comforting rhythm. Even now, the environment around you might feel strangely static. In an open space, there's nothing to grab your attention. No winding paths, no walls, no turns. There's only the wide, open expanse. Your mind craves something, anything to latch onto. So you keep moving, not forward, but in a slow circle, drawn to the space you just left. And yet there's a strange calm in the repetition. The circle becomes your anchor. As much as you feel lost, the act of walking in a loop is like a simple rhythm that you can follow. Your feet know the path, they've walked it before, even if it doesn't take you anywhere. Without much thought, your mind moves on to other things. You might focus on the sound of your shoes tapping on the ground, the distant hum of the world around you. The feeling of walking in circles becomes familiar, almost expected. It's a strange form of comfort, as if your body knows this space better than your mind does. Even when you realize what's happening, the circle doesn't break. It feels almost like a trance, a quiet repetition that keeps you engaged with the world around you. You stop thinking about the need to escape, and instead you walk, each step taking you back to the place you started, yet never quite in the same spot. Perhaps this is the mind's way of processing uncertainty. We move in circles not because we want to, but because the mind, uncertain of its direction, takes comfort in repeating the familiar. The circle, the loop, is both a reflection of our confusion and a way for us to regain some small sense of control. Without much thought, you might notice the circle widening. The small movements become a bit larger, a bit more deliberate. Your pace picks up, and yet no matter how fast you walk, the space you're in doesn't change. You're still moving in that same loop, drawn into the rhythm of it, even when you think you've escaped it. Still, eventually, the circle will break. You'll find a landmark, or your surroundings will shift just enough for you to recognize the direction. The cycle will end, and you'll move forward, knowing where you are once again. But for now the circle continues, a quiet, endless motion guiding you through the confusion. Maybe tomorrow when you're walking, you'll notice it again. The way your mind drifts, the way it circles back, even in an open space. Maybe next time you'll catch it before it starts. Or maybe you'll simply let the rhythm take you, trusting that it will lead you somewhere familiar, even if you don't know exactly where that is. It doesn't ask for attention. It simply waits. The loop, the circle, the rhythm that continues, even in the quiet moments, even in the open spaces where nothing seems to change, it persists, waiting for you to notice or for you to keep moving without ever knowing how you arrived back at the start. The light in the room flickers, then settles, casting soft shadows against the walls. The room feels different now, not quite the same as before. The change is subtle, but unmistakable. As your eyes adjust, you notice something, how the space feels cleaner, brighter, even though nothing has physically changed. You glance at the light bulb, warm and golden, bathing the room in a soft, familiar glow. The surfaces are just as they were moments ago, nothing spotless, but the light seems to make everything appear tidier, more inviting. There's an ease to it, a sense of calm that wasn't there before. How strange, isn't it? Still, the light around us shapes more than we realize. It affects the way we see, yes, but also how we feel about what we see. When the light is soft, gentle, it seems to soften the edges of everything. The room, no matter its imperfections, looks more put together. The air seems lighter, the floor cleaner. The way light interacts with color is a quiet force. Cool, blue light creates a different mood entirely. In its presence, everything seems sharper, more sterile. The room feels less comfortable, more distant. Objects that seemed warm and familiar, under softer light now appear stark and uninviting. The warmth is gone, replaced by a clinical edge. Without much thought, we accept this as natural, not realizing how much the temperature of the light influences our perception of cleanliness. A simple switch from warm to cool light makes the same room feel worlds apart. What was once cozy becomes bare. What felt lived in now feels cold, unfinished. Even now, the shift is subtle, but real. It's like the difference between two rooms, one bathed in soft amber light, the other harsh and white. The warm room feels homey, lived in. The cooler one feels sharp, fresh, but distant. The exact same room, but the color of the light tells a different story. There's a reason we gravitate toward soft light in our living rooms, our bedrooms. It invites us to settle in, to relax. The warm hues give a sense of order, of care, of cleanliness. It's the quiet magic of light, making spaces feel more comfortable, more welcoming, without saying a word. It's funny to think about how we don't even notice this happening. A slight change in light, and our minds begin to tell a different story. The space hasn't changed, but the way we experience it has. Cleanliness, it seems, is as much about what we feel as what we see. Still, when the light turns cold, we can feel that shift. A space that once felt organized now feels harsh, clinical. Every speck of dust is more noticeable, every detail more glaring. It's as if the room has been stripped of its warmth, left with only the bare bones of its structure. Cleanliness, in this case, becomes something almost unnerving. And yet the perception is fleeting. As quickly as it changes, the warmth returns. A simple change of light, and the room feels whole again, as if the earlier discomfort never existed. The magic of light is in its quiet influence, a force we can feel but seldom understand. Without much thought, we accept the comfort that warmth brings. The way soft light makes everything look just a little cleaner, a little more cared for. It's as if the warmth of the light is enough to convince us that everything around us is in its proper place. The room, the world, feels more orderly, less demanding. Even now, you may not realize just how deeply the temperature of light affects the way you move through the world. In one light you feel at ease, in another you feel distant, exposed. It's all in the color, in the subtle shades of warmth and coolness that shift with every change of the bulb. Tomorrow, when you walk into a room, you may notice it, the shift in light, the way it changes the feel of the space. The warmth may draw you in, the coolness may keep you at arm's length. It's an invisible force, shaping how we experience cleanliness, comfort, and order, without us even realizing it. It's strange, isn't it? How something as simple as the temperature of light can shift our entire experience. The room remains unchanged, yet with every flicker of light, we perceive it differently. Cleanliness isn't just about the visible, but about how we feel, how the light touches everything around us. Maybe tomorrow, you'll think about it. Or maybe you won't. Either way, the light will continue to shape the spaces you inhabit, guiding your sense of order, of cleanliness, with its quiet power. It doesn't ask for attention, it simply waits to be noticed, to influence you once again. There's something strange about opening a small package of snacks. The wrapper crinkles in your hand, its edges sharp, but the moment you pull it open, the contents look so manageable, just a handful. The smaller the package, the easier it is to ignore the growing weight of your own indulgence. Still, you don't question it at first. The portion is small after all. A little bag, a tiny box, just enough to satisfy. It doesn't feel excessive. It feels controlled. There's something about the neatness of it, the perfect little serving size. It almost seems like it was made just for you. Even now, as you snack, you realize how much more forgiving it feels. With each handful, each bite, there's no guilt. The small package seems to shrink the problem into something more manageable. What's a few bites from a tiny pack? It's not the same as taking from a larger bag, is it? Without much thought, you've already made the calculation. A single serving, that's all. It's not like you're overindulging. The packaging tells you as much. There are rules to follow after all. And the rules are simple. One serving, a small serving. So it's fine. Really, it's perfectly fine. You've made no mistake. The odd thing is, you've probably done this without even realizing. The same snack, packaged differently, has a different effect. It's the illusion of control. When the portion is small, it feels like you're not stepping outside the lines. You're only taking what's offered. No more, no less, nothing to worry about. Still, the packaging plays its part. A larger bag, you might hesitate before reaching in. But the small pack is a different story. It feels like the rules are already written for you. A snack this small is an invitation to indulge, but it doesn't feel indulgent. It feels like it's just enough. And that's all. Even now, as you finish, there's a faint sense of contentment. It wasn't too much, was it? You didn't go overboard. It was the perfect amount. You can almost hear the echo of the package's promise in your mind. Asterix. This is enough, Asterix. And somehow, that promise makes it easier to forget the weight of the decision. The package is small, and that makes it easier to dismiss the act of eating itself. No guilt, no hesitation, just a quiet acceptance. You've followed the guidelines, and the guidelines feel kind. The small package is a gift, a reassurance. It's not excessive. It's measured. It's just right. And that's enough. Without much thought, the small snack becomes a ritual. Not just a habit, but a little moment of permission. You're not overeating. You're not being reckless. You're simply enjoying what's been offered. In the right size, in the right portion. A snack this small almost feels like it's meant to be eaten. No harm done. The most curious part is how often we overlook the small things. A tiny snack is easy to justify. After all, it's designed this way. The portion, the packaging, the way it fits in your hand, it all points to one simple truth. There's nothing to feel guilty about. This is a moment carved out just for you. Still, when you think about it, this is a behavior repeated in so many ways. The smaller the package, the smaller the stakes. A small chocolate bar, a tiny bag of chips, a handful of nuts, each item feels less like a treat and more like a simple necessity. It's almost as if the size of the package whispers, "Buzz it, it's okay." Even now, as you consider it, the feeling lingers. It wasn't the size of the snack that mattered. It was the perception. A small item doesn't trigger the same response as a large one. It doesn't seem to carry the weight of decision-making. It simply exists, and you partake in it without much thought. Without much thought, you realize the truth. It's not just the snack you're reaching for. It's the simplicity of the choice. The small package tells you it's acceptable. The small package tells you it's measured. It's within limits. It's safe. And in that safety, there's a quiet sense of reassurance. Perhaps the next time you reach for that small snack, you'll feel the shift. Maybe you'll recognize it for what it is, a tiny indulgence that carries little weight because of the way it's been presented. But perhaps that's part of the charm. The simplicity, the smallness, the gentle permission to enjoy, without a second thought, and yet the small package remains, an almost silent reminder that sometimes the little things are the easiest to justify. They fit neatly into our hands, into our minds, and somehow make it easier to forget about the larger picture. It's not about the snack. After all, it's about the smallness, the ease of it. Maybe you won't think about it tomorrow, or maybe you will, but for now, there's a quiet understanding in the smallness. The snack has come and gone, but its presence lingers, a small, simple thing, no more, no less. And in that there's a quiet comfort that stays, just for a moment. The keys are cold beneath your fingers. You're staring at the screen, the cursor blinking impatiently. Your mind races, thoughts tumbling over each other. The password box waits for you to fill it, yet something feels off. You try to type, but your fingers seem to move slower than usual. Even now the words seem to linger on the screen. Each character a quiet struggle. Your fingers hesitate, as if the pressure of the moment has slowed them down. It's just a password, just a few letters, but somehow the task has become heavier. Why does it feel so hard to type? Without much thought, you glance at the screen again. The characters appear one by one, slowly, as if they're dragging themselves out from beneath your fingertips. It's strange. You know this password by heart, yet it feels distant, like a memory you can't quite grasp. Still, the hesitation remains. Each keystroke feels deliberate, forced. The more you try to speed up, the more the delay becomes. It's almost as if your body is betraying you, slowing down in a moment when it should be simple. What is it about this moment that makes everything feel like it's moving slower? The answer, of course, is more complex than we think. When you're nervous, the body reacts in ways that seem out of place. It's not just your mind racing, your body too seems to follow suit, affecting the way you move, even the way you type. The tension affects everything. Even now you might notice it yourself, the anxiety, the stress, the anticipation, it's all interwoven, pulling your attention. Your body feels the weight of the moment, your fingers unsure, but the screen waits, relentless, expecting. And yet the slower pace becomes its own quiet barrier, like something unseen. Still, it's not as simple as just nerves. The mind, in its anxious state, begins to narrow its focus. Your thoughts tighten, focusing on the task at hand, but at the same time, you're also hyper-aware of the pressure. The more aware you become, the more your body slows down, entrapped in the cycle. Without much thought, the password is almost finished. But it feels like an eternity has passed, though only a few seconds have slipped by. You might begin to realize that it's not just the physical act of typing that slows down, it's the whole process of cognition, the intricate dance between mind and body. The psychological effect is subtle, but powerful. Anxiety creates a paradox. The more you focus on trying to type quickly, the more you become aware of every movement, every hesitation. The result is the opposite of what you want, a slowed-down response that feeds back into the nervousness, like a loop. Even now, with the task nearly complete, the hesitation remains. Why is it that the more we want to move, the slower we feel? It's as if time itself seems to stretch when we are under pressure, making even the simplest tasks feel like they take longer than they should. Still, it's familiar. This feeling, this slowing down, we've all been there, fingers poised above the keys, but unable to make them move with the ease we expect. It's a physical manifestation of mental tension, and it seems to affect everything we do in these moments. Even as the screen flickers with the final character, the relief comes not just from completing the task, but from the realization that the tension has finally loosened. You did it. But the way it felt, that stretch of time, the way your fingers fought against the rhythm, it's something you won't forget. Without much thought, you sit back, breathing a little easier now that the task is done. The password is entered, the screen has moved on, but there's something about the lingering feeling that remains. The slowness, the hesitation, the nervousness that shaped every letter, you won't forget that either. Still, it makes you wonder about the moments you didn't notice before. How many times has this happened, unnoticed, in other parts of your day? How often have you felt time stretch, felt your body slow when the mind is clouded with pressure, only to realize how much it affected your rhythm? The slow typing, the nervous moments, they fade into the background. But in those seconds something significant happened. Your mind, your body, all working in slow motion. A quiet ripple that shifted the way you moved through the world. And then, just as quietly, it fades away. Even now, as you move on with your day, the memory lingers in the back of your mind. The slowed down typing, the quiet tension, the feeling of time stretching in those moments. It wasn't just about entering a password, it was a small, unnoticed reminder of how the mind and body dance together in times of stress. Still, the memory fades. The task is done. The next moment waits, and life moves forward. But that strange subtle effect, the way the world seemed to stretch under your fingertips, maybe that will stay with you. Quietly, like a breath, reminding you that sometimes, time moves slower than we realize. The moonlight spills through the window, bathing everything in a soft glow. The world outside feels still, as though it is waiting. Inside, the clock ticks onward, quietly marking the passage of time. The air, thick with the weight of night, holds a strange, comforting silence. And yet, here you are, awake. Still, there's something about this time of night. The silence feels full, rich with possibilities, as if the world is just on the edge of something. You might feel it too, the stirrings of thoughts, ideas, flickering at the edges of your mind, as though the darkness has awakened something deep inside of you. It's curious, isn't it? How, despite the weariness in your bones, your mind feels sharp, agile, even. There's a strange clarity that comes with the quiet of the night, as though the distractions of the day have melted away, leaving only the parts of your mind that crave creation, that long for something more. Without much thought, the ideas begin to form. They rise like smoke from an unseen fire, subtle at first, then clearer, more defined. The world around you fades into the background, and the only thing that matters is this moment, the surge of creativity, as unexpected as it is, blooming in the stillness of night. Even now, you might wonder why this happens. Why is it that when the day fades and the night deepens, your thoughts begin to take flight? Maybe it's the quiet, the absence of noise and distraction. Or maybe it's something deeper, a connection to a time when the world seemed to slow down, when rest and reflection took on a different rhythm. The tiredness is there, of course. It pulls at you, a heavy blanket wrapped around your body. Yet your mind, it seems, moves faster, more freely. The clock continues its relentless ticking, but you are no longer counting minutes. Instead, you are following the ideas, the words, the images that rush toward you, eager to take form. This paradox, the pull of sleep and the surge of inspiration, is something many have felt, but few understand. As the night stretches on, it's as if time itself bends. The urgency to rest seems distant, forgotten even, while the need to create grows stronger, more compelling. You could keep going, couldn't you? Without much thought, your mind begins to sift through the noise of the day, discarding what isn't necessary, focusing only on what calls to you now. This is the time when creativity blooms, when the ideas that have been waiting for the right moment, finally emerge, shining bright in the darkness. The night has allowed them space. Still, there's something deeply soothing in this. The idea that creativity doesn't have to be forced, doesn't have to fight for attention. It simply exists, quietly waiting for the right conditions to come. And as the night settles around you, those conditions, tiredness, stillness, absence of distraction, are finally in place. The creativity flows. Perhaps it's a time when the boundaries between rest and work blur. When you're tired, the mind seems to let go of its usual constraints, its daily worries, the part of you that spends the day organizing thoughts, tasks, deadlines. It relaxes. And in that space, creativity is free to slip in, almost unnoticed, like a whisper. Even now, as you sit with the thoughts that are beginning to take shape, it's hard to explain. It's not about the exhaustion, it's not about the time of night. It's the way the mind opens up, free from the pressures of the day. You are more open, more willing to follow the flow of ideas. You are more alive in this quiet. And yet there's still the tiredness, still the gentle tug to close your eyes and rest. The contrast is striking, isn't it? The creativity pulling you in one direction, the weariness urging you toward another. But in this strange space between the two, something beautiful happens. The thoughts emerge, clearer than before. Without much thought, the rhythm of the night becomes part of the process. You move between moments of inspiration and moments of rest, as if the night itself is pushing and pulling you, guiding you towards something that you can't quite reach in the daylight. The world at night is softer, slower, more forgiving. Still, when the moment passes, the tiredness creeps in. The ideas that once seemed so sharp begin to blur, as if the night itself is retreating, leaving only the weight of sleep behind. But you know that, in time, it will return. The creativity, the ideas quietly waiting for the next night, the next moment when the world is still. Even now, as you let go, the night slips into a peaceful silence. The thoughts may fade, but the feeling remains, tucked away in the corners of your mind, like a dream you can't quite remember, but know is there. It simply waits, hidden in the quiet, until the next time, until the next night.